Hello, everybody. Hello. Good morning.
Hi.
Welcome to the Chip Theory Games Game Found Feast.
We don't have any food here.
We do not have any food here.
We do have food.
That's true, but we do have some red meat for everyone watching this stream. Good morning. Good morning and good evening to those of you who are across the pond and what have you. So I know it's late in several places that are probably watching us right now.
Somewhere it's late.
Like we've been talking with the Game Found team in Poland, obviously, or maybe not obviously to you if you're not aware. They're based in Poland, and so this is actually usually when we will do meetings with Game Found is right around this time of day because obviously just very different time zones. So. My name's Josh Welgus. You know me as Gilly. Who are you?
I'm Josh Carlson.
And what do you do here?
Josh Carlson. I design stuff sometimes.
That's correct. That's correct. We are here to give you a sneak peek at all of the things coming from Chip Theory in the next year. This stream is going to be largely focused on the 3 upcoming Game Found campaigns that we have. Coming in the next year. So we have one launching next week. Holy cow, we'll talk about that. Hoplomachus, Pandora's Box. We have one coming next spring, which is a little game we call Wroth from Manny, Trembley, and you'll hear a lot more about that today.
From him.
Yeah. Yes, both pre-recorded and live. And then we have our next iteration of 20 Strong, also in collaboration with Manny Trembley, coming next summer, which is 20 Strong Tanglewoods. So we are going to be talking about all of that stuff today. We've got a mixture, we've got a mixture of live Q&A and pre-recorded segments for you to take a look at today. So we've got a pre-recorded segment for each of these 3 campaigns, and then in between each of them, we'll be doing a little bit of Q&A and wrap up and that kind of thing. All of this will be available to watch later. So if you do need to check out for a little bit, or you're on your lunch break and it runs long or what have you, do not worry. You will not miss a thing. You will have a chance to come back and watch it. Well, I mean, you will miss a chance to ask us questions live, but true. Before we jump into all of the upcoming campaigns, however, and I should mention, by the way, 4 minutes ago, we pushed live the Wroth preview page on Game Found and the 20 Strong Tanglewoods preview page on Game Found. So and you can
Ripple's live too.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second.
All right.
So you can go and follow those campaigns right now, so that as we get closer to each of them, we'll send out some pre-campaign updates and that kind of thing. Right. So go check those out now if you don't want to wait for the video segments, though they are relatively sparse in information right now.
They're short.
Let's real quick though talk about before we jump into the future. We want to jump a little bit into the past/present of what's happening. So one thing we want to make sure we mention, go ahead, mention it.
Riffle is live.
Yes. Riffle, the elusive, hard to track down, very unique gear lock from Too Many Bones is available at chiptheorygames.com/store right now for 48 hours. So go grab it for everyone who has been asking, when will Riffle be available again? Right now, 48 hours. And we will likely be making Riffle available again for 48 hours on Black Friday, just FYI, which serves as a good transition to talk about some other upcoming things that we've got. So, there's a lot. At
the beginning of this year, we were like, even last year, we were like, that's a good product for Black Friday. That's a good product. And then now we get there and we're like, there is so much ready for Black Friday.
Right. So, why don't you run down the list of things that we will be selling on Black Friday this year that people can look forward to?
Okay. So as we mentioned, Riffle would be the first thing that's going up.
But only for 48 hours. The rest of these things will be
all week or
throughout the holidays, / possibly permanently. So,
Yeah, well, promos won't be permanent.
Correct.
Yep. So all the promos, is that 6 years of promos?
Yep, and that would include the crossover equipment pack from Burn Cycle, which if you backed the campaign on Game Found, you already probably have that. That includes the crossover loot pack from Too Many Bones, which was a part of our Too Many Bones Unbreakable campaign. I know there's been several folks who missed out on that because they maybe didn't follow the campaign or they didn't add it.
Yep.
That will be available during the holidays.
Okay. Gearlock Child.
The Gearlock Child, yep.
Will come back. Aprilis
will be back. Yep.
Okay.
The Hoplo April Fool's promo.
I hear rumors of a shale promotion.
Potentially, yeah. We may be offering. We're talking about doing kind of a last chance to get the complete Automaton of Shale package with the pop-up book and everything. We may not reprint the pop-up book again after this existing run that we've got. So we will likely be running some sort of promotion to move a significant amount of Automaton of Shale pop-up book kind of thing.
That was such a crazy project. It's one that we never intended to make a whole lot on. And we've held true to that. We don't. So that's one of the reasons that we're like, well, I don't know that we would say for sure that we're sunsetting, but we're, it's kind of put in that same realm as all the log books, honestly. Like it's just, it's so complex and there's so many unknowns to it. And we've had now, if some of you have been following it, some struggles getting some of the log books here with all the customization that those need. And so yeah, the challenge is there, it's real, and that's why it puts us in this question mark. And therefore, we want to make it accessible as we can to people one last time, and then we'll kind of see where it goes from there.
Yep, we will likely at that point finally look at separating out the gameplay content and selling that separately potentially. Yep. So
maybe something with plushies.
Yep.
There's some minis that have been chatted about.
Oh, look at this. Look at these. I'm going to stand up here for a second.
They're not going to see them there.
Well, no, we got to. Yeah,
okay.
We got the camera. Let's. Whoop. Focus.
Look at this thumb. Isn't it cool?
It's not.
Dude, that's terrible.
I know, it's not. We tested
set it on the table.
We tested this beforehand. It's not working. Oh, well. Okay. So, right here I have.
Here.
Santoro's going to.
The person that actually knows how to do it is going to.
He can't do it
either. Not do it either. This is awesome. You like these?
Do you like they look a little clearer than this in
figure
person.
This is?
Yeah. Just don't worry about it. Forget it. Okay. So we do have Gearlock brass mags for you. These will be available on Black Friday. The MSRP on these is going to be around $99.95, something like that, and we will likely run a launch promotion of some kind. Where
there are a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. So how many figures in the box total? It's like 20.
Some, because we're doing a couple.
It's 20, 24 or 25, somewhere in there. We've already been asked, will there be dart and board? Can dart go on top of board to ride board? We have 3 different sculpts, I believe. Is that correct? I think we have dart and board, and then we have a separate sculpt that is dart riding board. Is that correct?
We do not have a dart riding board.
Oh, we do not. Okay, I'm wrong about that.
Yeah,
that's my bad.
Originally, we talked of the possibility of magnetizing dart so she could stand on board, but it just became a little bit ridiculous in how it would have to work. The sizing wasn't correct. It just it was a little much, and we tend to go a little too overboard on certain things. So,
but these will be available. But not really for we anticipate that we will actually have the stock on hand to ship on Black Friday. With the sculpts are done, we're ready to roll. It is just the Gearlocks for now,
right?
And those will be available. Those will be available on Black Friday for just immediately release to our website.
And let me just say, we've talked about this before, but the feedback and this was the biggest debate type of thing. Obviously there were a lot of people that wanted them for the longest time, but the thing holding us back was that in some people's opinions, mine included, it was a lesser experience on the table because you couldn't use the chip stacks underneath them. It's too hard to push those around with the chips fully stacked. They just want to topple, even with premium health. I feel like you're reaching and maybe bumping something. So that the health gets played from your prep area on your Gearlock mat, and then the table looks awesome in that regard. So it definitely makes up for it, for that, losing the chip stacks, but I'm just a little sad about that.
It is kind of cool though, because you do get, the Gearlocks are supposed to be very small in stature.
Yes. Yes.
And when you have them, when you have them on the table, nobody can see that. I'm not going to play with that. When you have them on the table as these little minis, and then you have these, you think of like Leech, from Splice and Dice or anything like that, where you get these massive stacks of health. It really does kind of create a cool visual of like being up against these.
It was worth it. I love them. I just want to be upfront. We knew that was a thing, and that's what kept us from doing them for so many years. Okay, we got to keep going here. Let's see. So let's talk coffee promos. Are those?
Yep, the coffee promos will be back for Black Friday and the holidays.
We talked about possibly the TMB card deck maybe showing up on its own.
Riffle's card deck potentially as a separate purchase.
Is the Trove Deluxe update pack?
So we will have, this is another question we keep getting asked. So two things. One, the Trove chest will be back available for pre-order. We've talked about this several times before, but if you're unaware, they take up a massive amount of space. They're very expensive to produce, and they're one of the few things that we make actually where order quantities make a massive difference in how much they cost per unit. So what we are doing with Trove chests probably forever at this point is we take pre-orders during the holidays and then we ship them the subsequent year after they're produced. We're essentially making them to order. On top of that, people who have the first generation Trove chest and have received their Unbreakable pledges have been asking, how do I get the rest of the trays and everything that I need for the first gen Trove chest? They were available on the Unbreakable campaign. We talked about them at length. However, still some people missed them. We will have those available by Black Friday. They may go up on Black Friday just so that people can combine order, shipping, and all that kind of thing. But we do have a print run of about 1,000 of them that we are waiting on arriving, and they will be here by Black Friday. So you can look forward to that.
And Trove chests will be here or not be here?
They will not be here. We will be taking pre-orders to produce them to ship next year.
Okay. Yep. Thanks for that clarification. All right. A couple of things. Do we want to mention a little thing on kids' games?
So we have a line of kids games. Surprise! We have a line of kids games that will be launching, and actually a completely separate brand, really. Chip Theory Kids will be launching with 4 solo games, solo puzzle games, and that will be launching on Black Friday. Again, we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about this from like the official Chip Theory channels right now, but there's some games that we had an opportunity to publish stateside. A couple of them are designed by Reiner Knizia, so you may be aware of several of his games. He's a very prolific designer, and these are solo experiences for kids that will be selling them as
first 4 are geared primarily for that.
Right. Yep. And then we view this as kind of the launch pad for a whole bunch of kids games, hopefully in the future, and we're excited about that. So surprise, that's coming on Black Friday. Nobody, I don't think almost
very
anybody
much a separate division, a separate. It's not taking up time or taking away time from anything else we're working on, and that's why we've kept it pretty close to the vest so far, is because it's just been a whole different group working on these. But we want to try it out, and it's exciting to see what's coming there. So,
is that everything for Black Friday? I think.
I think so.
Okay, I think that covers everything coming out Black Friday. That's it. So that's what's coming. Now we have a couple other campaigns that we have run previously on GameFound. One of them is a little tiny game we like to call the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era. We do have an update coming for that in the next week. So we do apologize. I was out on vacation for a week this month, and then we got back from vacation, and we immediately flew to the Bahamas, where we filmed a segment with a YouTube channel called Above Board that you should go and follow and check out. They wanted to try and see if they could play a CTG game with sharks underwater. And we went down to the Bahamas to help them out with that and kind of be on camera and be a part of that whole experience. And that is going to be one of the craziest board game videos you will ever see in your life when it drops sometime in the next, I think, 60 days. They said they were hoping to have it out by the end of September. You'll have to see how that went trying to play Too Many Bones Unbreakable with sharks. We won't spoil how it went at all. It was
we can share pics.
Crazy, though.
So, like, I'll share one of Gilly with his head between his legs for the last half.
I got very seasick. Only 4 people puked on the boat while we were out there. So so that's coming. But so we are overdue for a Elder Scrolls update. Development continues. You can pre-order, or by the way, you can still late pledge for Elder Scrolls right now on GameFound. And as we've been demoing the game at Gen Con, we're hearing lots of superlatives thrown out. Like, this is, I think, my favorite chip theory game ever. This is phenomenal. This takes care of so many of the, whatever little niggles I might have had about too many bones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're so excited about this game. We have a little thing that we can show you. Do I need to hold that up, Santoro, or is that, no, it's good. I can see. Okay. So we do have a 3D print here of our day tracker left side spins. You want to talk at all about this?
I mean, like, it's coming out pretty well. Like, we have some adjustments to make, certainly. We're looking at seeing if we're talking just what type of number orientation do we want? Do we want if the dash is in the side or in the middle? Do we want those vertically, or do we want the arrows coming up from the bottom? Which way looks visually the best, what's easiest to manage, and what's easiest to view from a distance. So we're talking through all of it. The magnet piece of aspect of it is working just fine, but I can show you these two. If they stick at all, they tend to pop out. So we're just, we're testing the strength of the magnets and what we need to do there for that. That's the pressure that I'm talking about.
Yep.
So if you push on this side, this pops out. So we're just trying everything and seeing what we can do to manage that. But it's meant to, just rotate.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then this is going to be a little factoid that I share in the upcoming GameFound update, but from Ryan Howard, who is kind of our studio manager, managing the development staff on the Elder Scrolls right now. So we expect there will be about, if you're familiar with how much content a Too Many Bones encounter roughly is, and most of our audience is, we expect there will be about 325 encounter equivalents in the Elder Scrolls between the core box and the Valenwood expansion. So that means, encounter cards, quest steps, side quests, and end game phases in the Elder Scrolls. Each of them is about akin to, more or less, a Too Many Bones encounter.
Yep.
So again, we expect there will be about 325 encounter equivalents in all of Too Many Bones. So we're talking Too Many Bones, Undertow, Unbreakable, etc. There are a total of about 415 in the entire Too Many Bones catalog. In the Elder Scrolls alone at launch, we have roughly about 325. For the Unbreakable cycle of content, we made about 175. So this is, in that launch alone, about twice as much content as everybody just got on Too Many Bones Unbreakable. This game is massive, and I can't wait for you to get your hands on it.
I'm excited. I'm so excited about it. It's we talk about this probably a fair amount, but in the design process, you just go through this roller coaster of being super excited about certain mechanics, the whole idea, concept of it, and then you hit the swamp of man, this is taking forever. We've been working on this 3 years, or we've been working, what are we doing? All those types of things. And then you hit, but we're playing it again yesterday, and just running through a situation where we just beelined through a delve, and creatures were popping up, and we tried to make it as far as we possibly could and do it all in one turn. We had some loot that allowed us to go far, and it was just that kind of emergence of this thing that we could do that we ended up not quite pulling off, but it was worth probably the attempt because we gained some XP. It was just a really awesome thing that I had not seen done quite that way. And all of those types of rooms that we were encountering were unique to Cyrodiil. So it was I hadn't seen those yet. And it's just, it's massive content, but it's in these nice bite-sized chunks that it just feels so fresh every time. Loving it. So anyway, I'm super excited.
And it continues to just be 100 times easier to get to the table than Too Many Bones, simply because you just take everything as it comes. You don't need to learn your whole character before you start. Take it a skill line at a time, and you just go. It's great. So again, update coming for the Elder Scrolls soon. Things are starting to look a little bit more polished. We've got a gazetteer here from Cyrodiil that is starting to actually have some graphic design elements and stuff going on in it. So that's happening. We have Burn Cycle is fulfilling. Burn Cycle new recruits. So we should be done actually fulfilling that in the United States here in the next like week and a half to 2 weeks. So that's moving really, really fast. That's great. And then all other regions should be right behind that. We'll have an update coming for that as well. 20 strong. We've got 20 strong. That is still, it continues to be in production. We got a little bit mixed up timelines from Hope's Games who are producing it. What they told us at Gen Con didn't end up necessarily being the case. So we'll be updating everybody on that. But it is in production. It is going fast. It may not be quite as fast as we said in the last update based on the information that we have now, but we'll be updating you on that. And it still should be delivering easily this fall. No sweat there, no issues. So that's a little bit about what's happening on previous campaigns. I think we're about ready though to start talking about future campaigns. So the one thing before we jump into your first look at the Hoplomachus Pandora's Box content, that campaign does launch next Tuesday at 10 o'clock Central Daylight Time. And that is in less than a week. So we are ready to go with that campaign. And I think we'll be jumping into that shortly. I'm going to grab these few different questions that are popped up here real quick. Are the promos, any promos that you're offering, will they have EU-friendly shipping? Yes. The only question is stock. Sometimes we don't have a ton of stock of a certain item in a certain region, but generally speaking, yes. Will there be a third Cloudspire Game Fund Kickstarter campaign in the future? I would say probably not. That doesn't mean we're done with Cloudspire, though. It just means we may not run it as a campaign. We may soft release any of that. We're actually running out of stock of Cloudspire in the U.S. as we speak. I think we have about 25 copies left or something like that. Excuse me. So we're looking at how to handle a reprint or if to handle a reprint, etc. Like right now, that's something that we are talking about internally. Will there be Elder Scrolls demos at Essen? Probably not public full-on demos. We will have a demo kit there, but it will probably be what we did at Gen Con, which was closed-door demos for media and content creators right now. Again, reason for that is simply the game is evolving, continues to evolve very, very quickly, and there's just a massive amount of content that we're constantly adjusting values and that kind of thing on. And so we're not to the really, really, really polished graphic design stage on most of the things in the box just yet. And therefore, we don't really want to show it off publicly and have people think that it's this half-finished thing.
But also approvals. There's so much that is intermingled with things we are fully approved on and things that we're not. And we just have to be really careful with that to not put out there a storyline that then is going to get rejected. So Yep. How
long is the late pledge open? As long as we possibly can leave it open is the answer to that question. I assume that question is about the Elder Scrolls.
Right.
So we've guaranteed that it's at least open till the end of this year. I think odds are it's going to go into the spring, and we'll leave it open. Our print quantities kind of are what they are, and therefore we're not too concerned about needing to close it. And get that figured out. So it'll be open for a while yet. Please go late pledge. Will there be a draft rulebook or something like that made public before the late pledge ends? Likely not. Again, the rulebook is kind of one of the last things we generally work on because when you do a big rulebook layout, especially for a game that's got this much stuff in it, you don't want to be going back and readjusting 100 different things. And we, again, so many mechanics even have been smoothed out since the campaign, even in these last couple months. It's just you end up rewriting your rulebook 100 different times. And so we generally do that last so that everything is final.
But the one caveat there is that because this game has so many translation partners and we're required to get those files to them earlier, there is a chance that we would be able to have something sooner than. It just really depends on how late the pledge and the pledge manager goes.
Right.
If we're into March, then it's possible you could see something.
I just don't want to promise.
Yep. No.
The one thing, but I will say we will be doing lots more live plays, live streams of Elder Scrolls gameplay. We're excited to show it off. We have nothing to hide on. In fact, we want to show it off more and more and more and more the further along it gets. And it's being actively play tested by a bunch of people right now. on Tabletop Simulator and that kind of thing. So yeah. All right. Let me. I think. Oh, did I lose control? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Keep going.
Now that we have unlocked the technology of mini chips, can we get mini chips for Hoplomachus tactics? Probably not, because we still need to have an explanation of how that tactic works on the chip, and I don't think that would fit on a mini chip.
Yeah.
Any updates on the cog book? That's a good question.
Yeah.
What can we say publicly right now? That because it's still in
the last 3 weeks, I will say it's been another roller coaster for us. Like, we got some really good news. I feel like we verified that the product does actually exist there. I think that was one thing we already had shared. But as far as getting it out of the country, we've paid for all this once. So the fact that we're having to basically pay for it again, it sucks. Like, that's a thing. But I just want to make sure that we're not doing that without some like absolute concrete assurances that we are then, like, it is truly being released to us. And that has taken us down the road of finding our own shipping company, because right now it's like, well, send this payment again to this place you don't know or haven't done business with, and then hopefully that will get the product sent out. It's just a little like, and again, we've done business with this company for many years, so it's probably more of a hard times type situation, but it's just one that we're out a good chunk of money, so we want to be really careful when we do it again. That said, I did just get an update from that company directly, who said they've now started making progress on working things out with the bank, and they may not need as big of a payment. And I don't think they'd say that if there was, So like that, we'll keep you posted. But I feel like we're going to see them from that and not have to produce them somewhere else in a hurry. So that's good, but the waiting is still a real thing. Yeah. So that's more hopefully within a week or two is the hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing, can you guys share a little bit more about your collaboration with Game Theory Tables, creating a TMB specific playmat? So this is a Game Theory table. You can actually buy this table from Game Theory Tables right now. It's TMB branded. Not a whole lot more to say on that. Like the inlay or whatever this is called, I don't even know. Is basically an expanded version of this mat that you see on the table right now.
It's really cool.
They took it and they expanded it out, and that's the inlay for the inside table. They approached us and were like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And we were like, "You make cool tables? Yes, let's do it." Yeah. So you can buy this table right now from GameTheoryTables.com, I believe. That's about as much as I have to say about that. So. Yeah. With all that said, this stream is about the future. So again, in the next hour and a half to 2 hours, you're going to see information about Hoplomachus, Pandora's Box expansions launching next Tuesday. You're going to see information about Wroth. Manny Trembley will be live here in studio to answer your questions about Wroth. He'll be here around noon-ish. And then we've also just got a tease of 20 Strong, Tanglewoods. You can follow all those campaigns on GameFound right now, but we've got a pre-recorded segment showing off what you can expect from Hoplomachus Pandora's Box, and I'm going to allow Andrew Santoro to jump over to that now. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
We will be back between these pre-recorded segments, or at least I will be back. I don't know if you'll be back, to answer any questions you have that we're allowed to answer. Thanks for being here. Enjoy this sneak peek at Hoplomachus Victorum and Remastered's Pandora's Box expansions.
Hello, and welcome to the Pandora's Box Hoplomachus expansion campaign. We are super excited to have you here. I'm Logan Giannini, one of the designers of this content, and I'm going to walk you through what comes in much of this content. So, during our research for this campaign, we discovered a little-known historical fact, which is that Pandora actually had 3 boxes, not just 1. So, for greater historical accuracy, we have broken this campaign into 3 boxes, which I'm going to walk you through right now. Pandora's Wake is going to introduce 3 new modules, including 2 new arenas with their own styles of play that you can use in Hoplomachus Remastered. first up in Pandora's Wake is a module that I think everybody saw coming. Everybody has been asking about it ever since these games dropped, and that is the Vesuvians. So when we developed Victorum, we actually introduced an 8th faction that was previously unplanned. It just kind of came out of the development of the game. Because of the way it evolved, there wasn't really space for it, or a place for it, or a plan for it in Remastered. As such, there were no Vesuvians in Remastered, but there were in Victorum. So now we're very happy to introduce the Vesuvians as a fully fledged remastered faction. So you're going to have the same number of units, the same number of tactics, your own hero, to mirror all of the other factions in Remastered. Additionally, even though this comes in the Remastered box, it will give you new content that you can integrate, just like the other factions, into Victorum if you wish. Now let's talk about Condemned mode, which is one of 2 new modes in Pandora's Wake, the remastered box, which also brings back a familiar face for longtime Hoplo fans, and that's the Fa-Mel Arena. So Fa-Mel was an original expansion arena from Remastered way back in the day, long before it was called Remastered. It hasn't been around for a long time. The rules were really interesting, if a little bit bumpy, and we wanted to give it a new coat of paint and reintroduce it to new and old Hoplo fans alike. As such, we came up with Condemned mode. Much like in the original Fa-Mel Arena, Condemned mode sees you fighting across an arena and leveling up a character. Previously, it was an archer. Here you are now a wretch, a condemned criminal trapped in the heavens trying to fight to earn your freedom. As this wretch, you start out virtually powerless. As you earn crowd favor, you upgrade the wretch, and when you think you're strong enough, you make a break for the exit. But of course, it's not as simple as that, because there will be a rival wretch opposing you and 2 powerful arena beasts making life miserable in the middle of the arena. Now, unlike the heavenly, fantastical Fa-Mel, Namakya mode actually has a very rich historical basis. Back in the days of Julius Caesar, he thought it would be really fun if you flooded the Colosseum and came up with some custom-made flat-bottom boats and let your gladiators butcher each other that way. Well, we thought that was so much fun that we are actually introducing that to Remastered in the form of Namakya mode. Your second new arena is the Flooded Colosseum. You will load your units up onto one of 2 little boats that belong to your team, and you will sail around the Flooded Colosseum, doing battle with either the AI rival, which brings their own new faction, or against another player in PvP mode. In addition to sailing around with new rules in your little ships, you'll also want to beware of the water, as it is fraught with vicious crocodiles, difficult to kill, bloodthirsty, and always looking to destroy anyone who dares to set foot in the water. The Victorum box, Pandora's Ruin, sees Pandora back on Earth looking to right the wrongs of her past. You can play with her in battling the Scions, you can use the heroes she's brought with her, and explore the Victorum campaign through Pandora's lens. The first module in the Victorum box is going to be Mercury's Boots. Now, Mercury's Boots is something that people have actually been requesting since very early on after Victorum delivered, which is a quicker way to play Victorum. People love the campaign structure, they love the advancement of the hero, and really everything about the game, except some people have found that it is just a little bit too big of an ask to play a whole campaign. Even when you break it up act by act, it's just a little too much to keep it on your table or keep it in your mind for a week. And so to help alleviate some of that difficulty, we have come up with Mercury's Boots. Mercury's Boots is not going to bring new components. It is simply going to be a new rule set that is going to allow you to play essentially the same game in a much quicker window. So something to look forward to if you love the mechanics of Victorum, but struggle to get to the end of a possibly 8 to 10 hour campaign in the amount of time that you have. The Dark Days expansion is going to inject a little bit more lore and asymmetry into each of your campaigns. What the Dark Days expansion does is actually adds a number of events for each different event deck related to the Scion that you're facing. So if you're facing, say, the Hydra, you would find the Hydra-specific events, shuffle the Bloodsheds into that deck, the Opportunities into that deck, and the Scion Sport events into the Sport deck. This means you're going to have a unique batch of events that you only see when you're facing certain Scions, which means their presence is felt a little bit more through the whole campaign itself, and gives you a little bit more variety and uniqueness to look forward to as you build up to facing the Scion themselves. The Arenas module is going to inject a level of asymmetry into your travels around a given region. So currently, when you are in, say, the New Argonauts area of the map, you will always be using the same set of New Argonauts rules in the New Argonauts arena. What the Arenas module is going to introduce is a set of double-sided arena cards, but instead of having different arenas on each side, each one will now have the same arena with different rule sets. So in New Argonauts, you may be shackled together on one side. When it flips over, all of a sudden you have a new set of rules where you have to reach the weapons racks to be able to utilize your attack properly. Otherwise, you lose dice and can't use them. So each area now is going to be just a little bit fresher as you travel through it, with those cards flipping back and forth so that for the most part, you're never playing the same set of rules twice. This also gives you a whole new host of strategies to try to figure out and master, and then, hopefully, exploit. The Faces of Evil module adds several new Scions to the mix in Victorum. These Scions are super exciting in a couple of senses. One being they actually come from certain cultures that we may not have explored yet within Victorum and Remastered. So you're going to see us tapping into some new mythologies that may come as a pleasant surprise to you. Additionally, we got to play with some new mechanics, some really wild stuff. Not that we weren't wild in the core box, but these Scions really push the envelope. So keep an eye out for these 3 Scions, and keep an eye on the stretch goals, as there may even be another one who takes shape. The Rivals expansion module for Victorum may be the one I'm the most excited about, in kind of a funny way. So basically what the Rivals expansion gives you is a whole new deck of cards. And that deck of cards is going to give you Primus events. So currently in the game, when you reach a Primus at the end of one of your first 3 acts, you turn to a page in the manual, you read out a lineup, you set it up, and then you just fight a certain number of units. There's a little bit of asymmetry, but not a lot. It's basically the same every time you reach that point. So what the Rivals expansion does is it adds this Primus event deck, and basically now treats Primus events like Bloodsheds and like Sports, in that when you reach them, you take that top card, which you can see face up, so you know what's coming, and it's going to apply modifiers. It's going to apply greater asymmetry, more uniqueness, more difference in the lineups and special rules for these Primus events, which gives you an added layer of strategy to pay attention to through the act leading up to it. So this is really going to not just add a lot of variety, but it's going to help streamline that portion of the game. You don't have to go to the manual anymore. You don't have to set Primus health to a custom number. You'll just use the health on the chip. And unlike Primus events in the core box, you will actually use act modifiers just like every other event. So it's going to actually smooth over that portion of the game in some really cool ways. Now, for those of you who have Remastered, who have Victorum, and are looking forward to trying to mix those even a little bit more than we've already facilitated, we have Pandora's Might. Pandora's Might is a small box expansion with really a single purpose. It is designed to bring your heroes from Remastered into Victorum. So you have the hero chips, but now you have the hero prowess cards. So each one is fully unique and fully playable in a Victorum campaign. In addition to that function, this box also contains Pandora herself, with her own prowesses making her playable as a hero in Victorum, or as a crowd favor hero in Remastered.
All right, we're back, and by we I mean me and Logan.
Hey, everybody.
We have replaced Josh Carlson with Logan.
You mean upgraded.
Upgraded. We have upgraded, leveled up for the foreseeable future, as far as I know. We got Logan Giannini here. You just heard him talking about all the content coming in the Pandora's Box expansions, and we are now here to answer your questions about what you just saw, or maybe what you didn't see, or maybe what you'd like to see, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Before we answer any of those questions, I'm going to give you an opportunity to just talk about, in general, how you've looked at the development of all of this expansion content, because you've been the lead on all of this stuff, if not the only one actually working on all of this stuff.
It's funny. It kind of started just because I loved Hoplo so much. I had such a good time with the first batch of content. Then we kind of veered, we had a lot of Too Many Bones to develop. Then we had a lot of Elder Scrolls to develop. And just kind of in the background, I had enjoyed it so much. I just started a spreadsheet and started filling out, like, what would I like to see from a next round of content. And at the time I started that spreadsheet and started building modules, I had no idea if it was going to be a hit, if we were going to be able to do more content, or if they were going to say, hey, it's one and done, it did all right, but we're not doing any more. So it was kind of just a passion project at the time. And I filled it out, I wrote it up, I put it on your desk, I put it on other Josh's desk, and basically just said, hey, I've got ideas, these are fairly fleshed out. At any point, if you want to throw these into active development, go for it. Like, I'm here for it, they're ready to go. And it was really interesting seeing, as the game hit and people started to play it more and more, the feedback coming in and the things other people were asking for, saying, well, hey, we want to see more variety in the arenas. And it was fun to kind of sit back and go, oh, that's put together. So if it happens, that's going to happen. You're going to be very happy about that. So it was very interesting to see those intersections of what I thought would be a good addition to the game and what other people thought as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One module that we, or rather micro expansion, I'm going to talk about. That we have not talked about yet, and actually, what Josh Carlson is doing right now is he's getting a graphic prepared to add to the top of the preview page for Pandora's Box. Every pledge is actually going to come with is going to receive a free $5 little micro expansion that we are calling the Forge, and that expansion is actually based on.
So, based on my father. So, and he doesn't know this yet. So, if any of you out there know him, don't tell him. This is meant to be as kind of a surprise. But he is a blacksmith. He has been forging. He's been making custom knives, custom tomahawks for basically the last roughly 30 years. He is fantastic. He does incredible work. I have a bunch of the things that he's made at home, and it just seemed very fitting. I wanted to work him into Hoplomachus. It's about, gladiators and swords and weapons. And funnily enough, in making this first round of content, I neglected to work him in anywhere. So not too long ago, I went back and said, hey, do we have room for another little bonus for the backers, a little stretch goal? Because I have this little tiny micro expansion that I would like to work in that features, the likeness of my dad as a blacksmith character. So I'm very excited about that. It's a very personal one to me, and I'm hoping he's excited when he sees it.
Yeah. So that will be free with any pledge on this campaign. It will be separated because it is promotional in nature, kind of. Though he won't be the first CTG employee adjacent person to sneak their way into one of our games in some capacity. You can find Anthony, and I think is Blackbeard.
Yep, I think Anthony Blackbird.
Yeah, Blackbird. That's it. Yeah, it's just straight up Anthony Letourneau.
I just thought that was a coincidence that they looked very similar. Who knew?
But so that will, it's a little $5 pack. It's got 2 opportunities in it and 3 chips, I believe. Correct?
Yep. So there's going to be 2 opportunity cards. One of them will give you a unit, which is my dad. The other one gives you a tactic, and then there's also, we are planning just a new Bane enemy. So something to add to your Bane stack, but one of the opportunities does deal with it.
Right. Yeah. So, one of the things that gets talked about more and more and more on crowdfunding, it kind of went away for a while and now it's coming back because shipping is expensive and games are expensive and, it's so on and so forth.
Life is expensive.
Life is expensive, yes. Is what are the exclusives? Why should I back this as opposed to waiting for it to release? We are going to be offering a nice discount on the expansion content in a bundle if you buy all 3 of the expansions, because the bigger ones are going to MSRP around $50 each, and then the crossover one I believe is going to MSRP around $20 or $25 depending on stretch goal, final, all that kind of stuff. So you get a nice bundled discount. We are offering free shipping again on this campaign, which continues to be ludicrous, and then you will also get this little free $5 value micro expansion called The Forge. It is specifically for Victorum. It is not for Remastered, but that is coming soon. You can look forward to seeing information about that by the end of the day, actually on the GameFound preview page, which if you have not gone and followed it yet, what are you waiting for? Please go follow the campaign so that you are ready for next Tuesday when we launch.
Most of them have. There's a lot of followers on that page.
That's true. That's a good point.
Up there.
That's a good point. So I'm gonna grab Ricky Royal is in the chat.
What?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's
I don't know.
Chat with him. That's way better than chatting with us. Hi Ricky. Nice to see you in the chat. Glad that you have decided to join us. Some of the I'm just going to grab a couple of these questions. We don't have a ton of them, but with Victorum's slick teardown setup structure, what are you planning or what has been done with Pandora's box to ensure that this isn't lost?
Yes. So actually, that was a kind of key consideration for me in figuring out what modules to add. One of the goals of this was that these modules are not super invasive. It's not, we're tacking this on the side, we're tacking this new aspect on. It is not a lot of new rules, and it is not a lot of new setup overhead. For the most part, and there are some exceptions to this, but for the most part, it's going to integrate into what you have. So the maps, for example, the neoprene doesn't change. You're going to handle that the same way. You're swapping out your old PVC map references for some new double-sided PVC map references. Those behave the same way. Other modules will integrate into your various decks. The only module that is a little bit tacked on is going to be the Primus deck, simply because there's not a spot in the stadium seating for that. But you only face a Primus at the end of each of the first 3 acts, so it doesn't need to be as front and center. So that is going to just sit a little bit off to the side. But by and large, all of the new content just kind of slots right in with the existing content very, very easily and seamlessly.
Yeah, it's not all of this content, I think is going to address also a lot of the whatever the niggles that a few that some people have about Victorum and about Remastered. I would say Victorum specifically. So we mentioned, what Mercury's Boots, is that the official name of it?
Yes, yep.
Or Quick Torum. Should also mention, actually, when the campaign launches next Tuesday, we will be offering that mode of play as a downloadable PDF, like right on the campaign. You'll be able to play Quick Torum, Mercury's Boots, for yourself, actually, next Tuesday, if you want to play it in a downloadable format. And then, obviously, if you buy the expansion, you'll get the physical representation, the physical rules for it, the new sheets and all that kind of stuff, the reference pad. Yeah. Yep. So, but yeah. So, we feel really, we love Victorum. We absolutely love it. We're really, really thrilled with it. The reception of it has been phenomenal. It's been selling incredibly well for us. We're really, really excited about its future. So this was an opportunity. One, we've never done a whole lot of modular expansions in general for any of our games. I guess Gearlocks are modular in a way. But in terms of like expanding rule sets and that kind of thing, we've done very little of that. So I'm excited to see how people mix and match this stuff. You don't have to add everything. You can add it kind of one at a time if you'd like, and you can kind of curate your Hoplomachus experience exactly how you'd like. And again, as you just said, it really doesn't add too much teardown or even there's not even all that much additional rules overhead with any of these things. It's
no, for the most part, it's a little of here. This behaves this slightly different way, or hey, with the new arenas now you flip them over at certain times. Mm-hmm. It should be very, very seamless, and I'm very excited about Quick Torum too, because like you were saying, it's just that extra way to get it to the table for people who maybe don't want to spend 8 hours on a campaign. They like how the game plays, but they don't want to think about it for that long. They want to think about it for maybe 3 or 4 hours and then put it away, play something else, come back to it. As you know, I was very resistant to the idea at first. It was something I was I love Victorum. And I was very much of the mind that this is how it's meant to be played. I don't see a good way to alter this. And then I sat on it for a while, and eventually I said, actually, I've got some ideas. I think I have a good way that we can cut this in half or even a little bit more and keep what makes it Victorum. That was the important part to me, was that it still feels and plays like Victorum and those vital elements that make the game what it is. Mm-hmm. And I think we've done a good job with that. I'm very excited for people to play Quick Torum.
Yes, I am as well. In front of me, I have actually, this is one, these are the kits, kind of the preview kits that we put together for content creators that we'll be sending out shortly. And so we have one of the new Scions right here. And then we've got all the new arenas right here. We've got the Quick Torum. We've got the Primus deck. So we'll be sending out, we've got, I don't even know what's in this chip thing. We've got new Banes, new arena chips. All of this will be going out to several content creators here in the near future, including Mr. Ricky Royal, and they'll be able to test some of this content out as you can see. And I should also mention, this is not a 10-day campaign. We have become famous/infamous for running a lot of 10-day campaigns. On this one, it felt like when we ran the Elder Scrolls campaign, which was 3.5 weeks. We saw just a lot of benefits from that, and giving people more time to kind of digest everything that we were throwing at them. And so this one's going to run a little bit longer, also because we want to make sure we have time to get some of that preview content out, and most of that has not gone out in the mail yet, despite the campaign launching next Tuesday. So anyway, stay tuned for that. If I don't
heard it here first, 3.5 month campaign.
yes, exactly. If I don't have remastered, is there a way to get Pandora as a playable hero in Victorum without paying for the Pandora box?
So the way the content is divided up is you've got, and you'll have to forgive me, the names get jumbled, so I'm just going to refer to them kind of by the core boxes. But you've got the box of Victorum content, which is just for Victorum. You've got the box of remastered content, which is just for remastered. And then you kind of have that middle box that is, I would say it's mainly for playing in Victorum, but if you have the remastered stuff. So there wasn't a good spot to put Pandora herself other than in that, because she kind of touches on both. That's a long answer to a short question. Is Pandora really only fit in that middle bridge the gap box?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is Aprilis and the Fool going to be offered as an add-on during the Pandora's Box campaign? Yes, it will. Part of that is because we're so close to the holidays, where we'll be offering it between Black Friday and Christmas anyway. The New Year anyway. The other thing is just that this still being a fairly young franchise, there's a lot of people who will be buying Hoplo for the first time on this campaign, we suspect. And we want to make sure they have an opportunity to get all the content right out of the gate. So yes, Aprilis and the Fool will be available during this campaign, full stop. Is our plan to fit all Victorium expansion content into the core box? It may require some insert surgery, but it should all fit, I believe, into the main box. Again, always caveats there are always like maybe a little bit of lid lift, maybe
herniated disc,
trying to move it. Herniated discs. What's the? I'm trying to think of the Trove chest loot card, the secret Trove chest loot card, which is like traveling back injury or something. Anyway, point being, it should all fit. It should all fit in the core box once it's all said and done. But again, also some of that depends on stretch goal unlocks and all that kind of thing. We've got a ton of potential stretch goals sitting, waiting in the wings for this campaign. And hopefully people turn out for it and we unlock all the things. Hopefully we unlock so much content that it won't fit in the core box anymore. That's my hope. No offense to those of you who like to have everything in one single box. But any future plans for an Overlord mode, where a second player would play Hades and take control of the enemies / mess with the heroes?
So long answer, short answer, not really for this content. I did toy around, as Josh knows well, with a 2-player proposal for how to take Victorium and maybe make it PvP. And ultimately, we kind of landed on, no, this is a bespoke solo experience. It is meant to be for one player and just be perfect for one player. And anything else in Victorium kind of muddies the water. So we kind of, shuffled off anything that is beyond that scope for potentially later content. Who knows where the franchise is going to go? We have a lot of ideas. We have tentative plans. So you may see something that scratches that itch in the future, but probably not with this round of content or for Victorium.
Sure. Yeah, it's a question we get a lot, but it's ironic because as we jump into Wroth, which has like every game mode and player count under the sun, similar to Cloudspire, we have Cloudspire was a really hard game to market, continues to be a very difficult game to market, simply because it has so much content in the box and all of it is different co-op scenarios. It's not really a co-op game, but there's a bunch of co-op scenarios you can play. Solo mode, full solo campaign, which is arguably its like most enduring, like critically reviewed and praised feature. But it's not just a solo game. It's also got this like huge PvP mode that can be 1 to 4 player. And ultimately, a lot of that, can make it sort of an unfocused product. And when people are looking at spending $150 on a huge game, they want to know that it has the mode that they care about the most. And oftentimes, we didn't take anything out of the solo mode to include co-op. Like, we just developed them separately. And we're like, this is all cool, so we're going to throw it all in the box. But there can be this psychological thing where it's like, well, I'm really only interested in solo mode and it has PvP and I'm paying for $75 worth of PvP content even though I'm not interested in it. It's this weird psychological game. We want to keep Victorium a solo thing. It's like that's what we've pitched it as, that's what we've envisioned it as, and that's really where it's intended to stay. If we ever add any cooperative elements or even PvP elements to it, that would be
a separate title.
It's just not really what we're trying to do with it, and it keeps it very easy to just explain. This is a massively deluxeified premium solo experience. That is what it is, and we're not going to try and make it more than that because that's what it's best at. So anyway, this is a great question. Any idea when the Pandora's Box campaign will be fulfilled? Okay, so I was talking a little bit about this on Discord, and I could give a 3-hour seminar on this. Is what I said on our Discord channel. I think what we're likely going to put for fulfillment is October of next year, which is right around when Elder Scrolls is supposed to fulfill. I think it will fulfill much sooner than that. The content from a development standpoint has already been being play tested for well over a month externally, not even just in our building. And it's in a great place. Like, lots of this stuff is really, really ready to go. A lot of the art is done, not all of the art yet, but a lot of the art is already done. And I think, if we were able to pull our artists off of Elder Scrolls for a little bit and just have them sprint on this, they could probably be done with the art in just a handful of weeks. So, but it's like, again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's so hard to project these days. So we're going to give it people keep telling us, give us a way conservative delivery date. And so yesterday, what I was saying in our team meetings was, well, I think that's October. And I think we'll be done well before that. But you just never know, because anything can happen these days. And, chips can be warped. Chips can get mispacked, as many of you experienced on our first Victorum campaign. So we're going to put October. And again, I genuinely know this is not like the company line. This is not me being cute, whatever. I genuinely think it will fulfill well before that. I think next summer is almost a guarantee. But we're saying October just to keep everybody's expectations in check, and because stuff happens. So there you go.
Like you were saying, we're very far along on it. And my goal is always go into the Kickstarter campaign with more done on the game than the last one. Like, we've been edging our way closer and closer. Right. And this is, I think, the most we've had on a project on the eve of the campaign.
Right. Even the fact that we're able to launch 3 preview pages today, one of which is for a campaign that is next summer, speaks to the fact that we're finally getting ahead a little bit, and we're able to project a little bit more accurately, generally speaking. So, do you plan to continue the new tradition of free shipping? I don't know, maybe. It may be the type of thing where we offer it on certain pledges in the future, that kind of thing. It's always this tricky thing. It's always probably going to mirror whatever we're doing on our website to a certain extent. And since we expect a lot of people to be spending over $200 on this campaign, that will put them into what would be free shipping on our website. But that said, we are looking strongly and almost certainly at upping that threshold for free shipping on our website going into the holidays to probably $250 to $300, because shipping just continues to be more and more expensive. I was checking out the iSafari Guard live on GameFound right now. Also uses chips. $50 shipping for that, and they're not crazy. Like, that's what it costs to ship these huge boxes around the world, and especially when you factor in ocean freight and all that kind of thing. So we'll see. For now, it seems to be a really, really effective thing in getting people kind of over the edge in terms of making a purchase. We won't be able to afford to do it forever, probably, but for now, it's one of those things. Do we take a huge discount off the products themselves, or do we offer free shipping? It's like it all comes out in the wash at the end of the day, but free shipping seems to be a nice, like, psychological thing where people just don't even have to think about and worry about it. So, is Stretch Pay available for Pandora's Box? Yes, we will be offering Stretch Pay. The base game for both base game for Victorum is $150, and I think $130 is remastered, and that will be the cost on the campaign unless you buy a large bundle, in which case you'll start to see some more discounts, that kind of thing.
For the core boxes, not for the expansion boxes.
Correct. Yes. Yep. Correct.
Those are not $150 and $130.
Right. Yes. Was there many fixes to the base Hoplo game that are notable for the base game reprint? There was the one. I
can think of 2. And one is notable, one is not. Basically, one of the Scions had a typo that made one of the rules not quite work. We pushed out a PDF for people immediately, but that will be tweaked for the reprint. And then the other one was simply a skill name in Remastered where the name was not quite right, but you could still tell what it was. So basically a typo.
Right.
So very, very minimal, not really much at all.
We're getting better, guys. We're getting better, I swear. So on these big complex games, it's so hard to put out a perfect thing the first time anymore. But yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah,
we're getting
the big
there.
Complex ones. I felt so bad when it was pointed out that there was a typo in Aprilis too, because I had looked at that so hard and so many times, and it still got through.
Yeah. Any plans for brass mags for Victorum? Not at this time. Not at this time. We're going to see how the response to to doing them for Too Many Bones is, given that that's kind of our flagship product. If those are super successful, odds are we'll look at rolling them out for other franchises as well.
Flagship for you.
Yes, the flagship. There you go. Yeah, the flagship. So there you go. Naval Battles coming soon to Remastered. Okay, I think that is kind of all of the things we needed to touch on. Oh.
Ah, you killed them.
Yeah, they all walked the plank. Longboats are known to also be common pirate ships. So that's what's coming next week. Again, the campaign is launching at 10 o'clock Central Daylight Time next Tuesday. That's September 12th. And yes, there will be strategist pledges available, 10 of them, not 300 of them. We learned from our last Hoplo campaign. We're going to do it right this time. Launching next Tuesday, Pandora's Box expansion content for Hoplomachus Victorum and Remastered. Again, if you pledge, you get a free $5 Forge mini micro expansion featuring Logan's dad. There will be solid discounted pricing on the bundle of all 3 expansions. And we're just really excited about this content, and we can't wait to share more about it with you. We've got other stuff coming, though. Manny Trembley is here. He's out there. I have seen him. I have laid eyes upon the Manny Trembley. But before we bring Manny in to answer questions that you might have about Wroth, we're going to show you this pre-recorded segment with Manny talking about Wroth. This is a brand new IP, brand new art style, brand new everything for Chip Theory Games, and we're excited to give you a look. So take a peek, and then we'll be right back with Manny to answer your questions about the upcoming game from Chip Theory Games, launching on GameFound next spring, Wroth. Take a peek.
All right. Well, thank you for that lovely introduction, Chip. I am Salem, and I am joined by the one and only Manny Trembley.
Hey.
And we're here to talk about this new fancy thing called Wroth.
Yep.
So, before we get into any of the details of Wroth, what's like the quick 1-sentence or 2-sentence description? Like, how would you pitch Wroth to somebody who has no idea what it is?
I would say Wroth is an area control game with a whole lot more dynamic, almost chaos, like controlled chaos.
Okay. So, area control being a kind of a new thing for Chip Theory. We had the strategy of Cloudspire, but very different from typical area control. So when you mention like it's got a lot of variability or controlled chaos, what exactly do you mean by that? What are the mechanics that facilitate that?
So obviously within Wroth, just like any area control game, you have your faction, you have your troops. We have elite troops that are represented by kind of these larger dice. You're going to be deploying and moving and controlling and dominating regions. That's very, very standard, right? But within that, there are these dice right here that you're going to be rolling. And so we're going to roll those and draft. And that's how you're going to choose to either move troops, deploy more, kind of like drop ships troops where you have them, kind of do an all move, like a dispersal from one region elsewhere. You're going to be attacking, you're going to be gaining resources. And because every round is going to be a different assortment of those dice, you're not sure exactly what you're going to be able to do next turn. So there's kind of the question of what do you do with what you have available?
I guess this will probably be a question a few people immediately bring up, because anytime there's something about dice, especially like even in all of our dice games, there's always some form of mitigation. Like Too Many Bones has the backup plan. Burn Cycle, you can combine misses for 1. Is there any kind of, I guess, cost? Like if what you have is really not what you want or even can't do, is there some form of like way to mitigate that at like a cost?
Correct. Yes, there is actually. So on the score tracker, there is a basically a list of the icons that are represented on the dice. There's a little token that will be on it, and that will start on the all move or the yellow dispersal symbol. And you can sacrifice the dice that you take for the round to move that to a location that you want. and then choose which one you want. But you're sacrificing one action for that turn to be able to be specific in the one that you want.
So you mentioned that it moves to that spot. If you wanted where it already was, can you do it?
Nope.
Or you have to
You
move
have
it?
to move.
So it kind of has a little bit of like,
yes.
I don't want to necessarily call it spite drafting, but there could be, I guess you could argue where it's like, if you know the other player is going to really want that all move,
right,
you could move it to that before they get a chance to do it.
You totally could, but in that mindset though, you're also sacrificing extra actions that you get to take during your turn.
Sure.
So there's a cost. If you want a spite draft, you go right ahead, but it's going to come at a cost.
Well, I have been known to sometimes spite draft, even though it's like, it's not going to help me win, but maybe I can help that one person lose.
There you go.
Which actually does bring up an important point. To clarify, so it sounds like this game has PvP. Is it only PvP?
It is not. So the core game was designed as an area control PvP, so 2 to 4 players. Within that, though, I kind of thought this would work perfectly well as like a cooperative game. So all the factions can be played as an AI that we play against. So within that, there's a 1 to 4 player cooperative mode that is played against an AI-driven version of a faction.
Okay. So 1 to 4 players, fully cooperative, but also fully PvP up to 4 players.
Exactly.
As well.
And then on top of that, there's also planned to be a dueling mode.
Okay.
Which all uses the same assets, uses the same board, but it creates a different style of how you play the game.
Just sort of looking at some of the components here, and then of course just all early prototypes, so all subject to change, and of course get the fancy, gloss and finish in the final version.
Of course.
You mentioned that there are like sort of those
those are the action
dice. Those are rolled every round. And then people get a chance to draft them.
Correct.
I also noticed there is this slightly different die on each player board. What is that used for?
So this is, I jokingly call the all-seeing die, and every round you're going to roll this, and then whatever you get is an action you can take during your turn, once per round. So it's going to range from being able to do 2 damage to a region you're in or adjacent, or one that's going to be able to like snipe a spot on the map, or one that's going to allow you to do 2x whatever your action is. So like a double move or a double attack or a double resource, that kind of thing. And then finally there's a gaining resources one.
Okay.
And so this is kind of like a bonus that I get access to once per round.
And does it cost, like that's what you do that turn? Or
no, it's an extra action you can take once per round.
Okay. And these are all the same regardless, because I know the factions are different.
Yes.
So there's asymmetrical factions. This looks like it's the same though. This is something you can be consistent of.
Yep.
So that then leads me into these other dice. So these are, I believe you called them the
elite
troops.
Yep.
These you do not roll though. They are sort of...
Yeah, they are only designated with health. So the number value is the health value of the elite troop. And these are recruited with your resources, or currently it's called Cora.
The smaller cubes, because I know this will be... It looks like they are not going to be chip-based. So that's exciting. Yes. We're going to try and branch out, do something new. So these are going to be more along the lines of like abstract representations of troops, however they look in the final version. You know, and so then currently we're using some
cubes,
wooden cubes, and then these being just essentially larger cubes.
Exactly. To
denote that they have more health. So I presume that means that these ones essentially only have 1 health.
Correct.
If it takes 1 damage, it's gone.
Yeah, they're effectively the grunts of your faction. Yep.
And then whereas these ones have a larger health pool, special abilities, possibly even bonus scoring. Correct. I'm looking at this one in front of me too, and I notice I have a bunch of these other dice that aren't even troops, possibly. It says bear traps.
Exactly. So some of the factions have things that are not troops. They have abilities. In the case of the Coda, they have traps. So during your turn, you can spend resources. You'll see here, like these ones show what the trap is, whereas the backside is the trap face.
Oh, interesting. So it's
secret. So when you're going to select, I'm going to pick this one, and then I place it in a region with my troops, and now nobody knows what that is. But as soon as one of my troops enter that region, the trap is activated, and in this case, damage would happen.
Interesting.
And then this trap is destroyed. It goes away. So you have to build more traps in order to gain back these different abilities.
Oh, okay. So as we're also then looking at the board here, I notice we've got sort of this. I really love. It's it's gonna always sound biased when it's a game that we're working on, we're making.
Sure.
And me saying this, but I absolutely love like this kind of almost like a graffiti fantasy look to it. We can talk more about that in a sec here. But yeah, we got the map here. And it looks like we've got these different regions. Yep. So I'm guessing that these are sort of like the deployment zone where
Correct.
everything starts. And then where do they go from there?
Correct. So you're going to start the game with 5 troops in your deployment zone. And from there, using the action dice, you're going to either be moving, dropping guys on, dispersing from regions in order to go to different parts of the map in order to control those regions. Mm-hmm. You'll notice these little chips here, these little tokens. These are going to be randomly shuffled and placed to represent victory points and also region scoring bonuses. So if I control this region, I'm going to be able to deploy extra troops next turn.
Okay.
So although it's not as valuable point-wise, it is valuable to help me gain more resources and actions. So as I'm going across here and you're coming up and you're deciding to do this and this, at the end of the round, we're going to score. And in this case, no one is contesting you here, so you're going to gain 1 point. Mm-hmm. And over here, you have more than me, so you also get that one. But over here, I controlled that one, so I'm going to get a point. So this is a game of scoring victory points, and we're going to basically racing to 50.
50, okay.
And over the course of that, we're also going to be trying to dominate. And these regions, it's almost like you're kind of going up a hill a little bit, right? So there's the deployment zone, which is the bottom. And then from there, as you move up, you're always moving 1 region across. And then as I can go, I can leave troops behind to try to hold zones and force you to come deal with me. But yeah, outside of that, every faction on their board currently, but it'll eventually be a card. Mm-hmm. But the card has like a once per game feat. And that special feat is something you can do at any point in time. It's epic, it's awesome, it's the coolest thing you can do. And when you do that, you exhaust it. But it's kind of like a way to like, it's time, I got to catch up. I got to try to like get back in this.
Yep. Whereas like, I guess if you were to do it too early,
yes,
you might not get as much value, and then also could like paint a pretty big target on you.
Yes, correct.
If you're like, oh, I'm the most dominating faction now, turn 1.
Yeah.
I guess the other question as far as like movement goes, because you mentioned that this is sort of moving up a hill. So this one here, in order to move to this middle spot, you have to have people on this spot.
Correct.
In order to move there, you have to have people here. As far as the rest of these regions go, is like, if you're in this deployment, are you only able to move into these spots, or is it a little bit more open than that?
It's much more open. So if you just kind of, like I like to picture it narratively. So like you've come and you've docked on the shore, and now you can kind of move around the sand if you want and come over here and hop up on this island. So everything is sequential outward kind of a thing. So like the deployment zone is 1 region. So this is all interconnected. Okay. Of course, you can't attack each other in deployment. You don't score deployment zones, that kind of stuff. But once I put my toe into the adjacent regions, now I'm engaging. I'm engaging in battle. I'm trying to control, dominate, etc.
So like if, for example, you were sitting over here and that was the 3 was over there, you wouldn't be at a disadvantage because you were sitting on this side of the table. You can still get over there just as easily as like the yellow or the black.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And I didn't want that disadvantage because we're starting in different locations. It felt it would be unfair, especially with the randomization. Yep. If they had been static, right, at the top had always been a 3, then it wouldn't matter.
But that means sort of like, because those are random, there isn't ever going to be like the same best strategy for every map. Or every game, I should say. Because like if the one right in the middle is the number 3, then everyone's going to sort of converge.
Exactly.
And whereas I'm noticing like, if these side ones are a lot easier to access from deployment, but is a lot harder to access if you're already on the map because there's just that 1 choke point. So now all of a sudden this choke point, that's interesting. Okay. Yep. I'm blanking on a question to ask, so I guess I'll ask the follow-up question. Is there anything part of the gameplay left that you feel like is an important thing for people to know about before we dive into a bit more of like the art or the history as to where this game came from?
Sure. So one of the things about Wroth is that it was kind of, the question was asked in my head, I don't like area control games. So can I make an area control game that I would want to play and that would be easy to teach, easy to get to the table and play, but would provoke the afterthought of, oh, that's really interesting. What if I do this? What if I try this faction? What if I learn how to do this? And I love the idea of a game that is simpler to play, that is easier to teach, and allows for that kind of growth. So
sounds like it's going to be a nice addition to, you know, the other types of games we offer, because like we have a lot of interest in, like, people really like the sort of the depth and complexity and nuance that we put into our games, but of course they're so big and they are a lot to take in. And even though, you know, I would make this argument for some of our games that, like, once you get it, there's a lot that can feel intuitive.
Oh yeah.
But it can be hard to get there. Like, you know, so exciting to hear that it's like, oh yeah, a game that's easy to teach, but still, like, when you finish it, you're like, I need to go back. I need to play it again.
That's the hope. That's the hope. Yep.
And so I mentioned this before too. I'm a huge fan of, like, this kind of, I don't know how you would describe it. I guess I was describing it as like graffiti sci-fi.
Yeah,
or not
or
sci-fi.
fantasy.
Graffiti fantasy. But yeah, because it's a little bit different than I think some of the other art I've seen in some of the other games you've worked on. And even like Tanglewoods, it's a little bit more...
Yeah, I think a through line with most of my art is vibrant colors. I just like colors. Like, there's so much kind of drab fantasy, and there's a lot of beautiful fantasy art out there. But I just thought, what would make this pop a little more, make it more, almost more inviting. There's like a candy coloredness to it that, like, my wife in particular loves. She loves how vibrant and colorful and alive it is. And she's one of those people that likes risk, right? So like one of my secret goals, not so secret anymore, is that I wanted her to, like, not play Risk, but maybe play something like this. And so that we could play something that didn't take 3 hours, and was dynamic and kind of crazy and fun. And so, but yeah, the art was kind of born out of that desire to let's take fantasy and just amp it, make it just pop and candy colored.
Awesome, I love it. And just to jump off something you briefly mentioned, a game that does not take 3 hours. I don't think those exist, do they? But I guess the question then is, what is the approximate play time for this game?
I think early plays are probably going to be in that 90 minutes. Yeah. Like an hour to 90 minutes is probably reasonable, and especially as you get used to it. But I mean, I think when I teach this to people, I probably do a full teach and play within an hour to an hour and a half. As a general statement.
And is that true across the different game modes, or does, like,
I think the co-op probably takes a little longer.
Okay.
Because I feel like co-ops have a tendency to have more interaction, more like, hey, what should we do? What do you want to do? Let's strategize, right? And I think that strategy just simply adds more time. But it also, because everyone's engaged, it doesn't matter, right? You enjoy that. That's, I mean, to reference one of your own games, Too Many Bones, right? As you're playing, there's that, okay, I want to know what you're doing. Oh, what are you leveling up? Where should you go on this? Who should you fight? Where do you want to be on the map, kind of a thing. So
yeah, and I guess, like, too, with the fact that you're drafting actions, whereas in, like, PvP, you just draft the action you want to take, or you draft the action you don't want somebody else to take. Whereas in co-op, it's like, okay, well, I know you really want that, so I won't take it. I'll take this instead. Things like that.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with us here at Chip Theory, I guess?
That's fun. Yeah. So I've known Adam Carlson for many years, and he and I have often joked that it would be fun to make a game together. And honestly, seeing, like, because of where I come from and where you guys are building your games, I didn't know if there would be a game that would line up right for the aesthetic or kind of what I bring to games and what you guys are known for. And then you guys launched your 20 Strong campaign. And I remember I texted him and I said, hey, how come I didn't get to make any art for you with this game? That would have been fun. And he was like, why don't you come in and let's talk about it? And so I came in and they showed me Solar Sentinels and I had a blast. And I was like, hey, can I make my own 20 Strong game? And from there, it kind of had just a natural discussion of, like, they liked what I brought to the table. I love what Chip Theory does in general. So I really respect the company and the people who run it and work here. So it felt like, hey, is there anything else we can work on? And I'm constantly making games by myself, with my family. And this was a game I had started by myself with my boys, actually. And I was like, well, I have this area control game that's not like other area control games. And so I brought it in, we played it, and it seemed to resonate with Josh.
I do, I guess, have one final question. This is probably the most important question. So I mentioned that these tokens aren't represented by chips.
It's true.
Where are the chips? Are there chips? What are we doing? Like,
It is true.
We can't publish a game that has no chip. We already learned that in 20 Strong.
It's true.
So I got to ask, is there a chip in this game?
So I thought that through, and although there's no chips in the game, there's a first player token that can be passed around.
That can be a chip.
Which this can be a chip.
Yep, there we go.
And there's also the AI are represented, their deployment zone shifts throughout the game. And so I thought that would be also a pretty sweet chip to be able to move around the table.
All right.
So I think we're covered.
Cool. We don't need to change our company name.
Okay.
We're good.
Not to cube theory.
To cube theory.
Yes.
I mean, that would actually kind of work because dice are cubes. At least
it's true.
All of the dice we use are cubes. We haven't
Yes.
branched out yet. It's all D6s. So.
No, there is a D8 in this.
Oh. Okay, so not only... Wow, all right, this is exciting, people. We're branching out to new different types of dice. We're branching out to new different types of game component tokens. Like, we're doing stuff nobody's ever done before.
It's ridiculous.
Awesome, well, that's exciting. All right, well, thank you so much for everything. I hope everyone enjoyed getting a sneak peek at Wroth. The last thing I guess we'll leave here is when can people expect to see the campaign for Wroth?
That's kind of fun. I think the hope right now is spring of 24.
Awesome. Spring of 24. Let's go.
And we're back, and I've got this guy.
Hey.
This guy is Manny Trembley, who you just saw pre-recorded, but now he is live.
It's true.
In the flesh.
Yep.
And Manny is the designer of Wroth, as well as the artist for Wroth. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you did not do on this game?
Well, I've play tested with a lot of different people, and so I would say a lot of the development that's happened so far is been spread across multiple people to help get to this spot.
Sure, that's great, including family members, I assume.
Yes, my boys in particular, they helped out a lot.
So this is our first game ever developed largely by an 12-year-old.
Yeah, so 12-year-old. He has helped considerably.
Yeah.
And the younger one, the 11. Yep, can't forget him.
We'll put that on the box.
Yes.
We'll put a big sticker. Developed by an 11 and 12-year-old. This is Wroth, and I think what might be really interesting for folks to hear before we do have some questions that have come in the chat, but before we dive into those, I think something that I've found interesting talking to you as we've ran through this game together, and I have played this twice, both in PvP and co-op mode. But talk about your design philosophy overall on this game, because you talked a lot about I actually kind of hate area control games.
Yes.
So why did you make one then?
So I often, when I'm looking to design a game, I will try to find a game type or mechanic that I don't enjoy, and then ask myself, can I make a version of that, an area control game that I want to play regularly, or that I want to teach and play with other people? Oddly enough, the same mentality applies to food. I don't like potato salad. So I was like, can I make a potato salad I like? I don't like coleslaw. Can I make a coleslaw I like? So
have you succeeded at either of those?
Yes.
Okay.
I have.
All right.
I make a potato salad I really enjoy and that I want to make.
That will be a free add-on
for
this game, is if you pledge for the game.
We cannot guarantee that it won't spoil in transit. But yes.
Manny's potato salad.
Yes.
That's awesome. So how long have you been working on this game?
So this game started design-wise October 3rd of
That's weirdly specific.
It is, because it coincides with 24-hour comic day.
Ah, okay.
So every year, 24-hour comic day is my favorite holiday. And we are supposed to make a comic book in one day. But since my boys don't draw full comic books, we have decided to do 24-hour game making day.
Okay.
So that day, the goal of that day is that we have to design and create a prototype of a game in one day. Mm-hmm. My boys can stay up as late as they want, and we eat junk food all day.
That's awesome.
And the only caveat is you have to make a playable prototype by the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And so this was my prototype last October. Mm-hmm. So that's when I first made the very first version of it, and my boys and my wife played it with us. And then within a month, I had done all the art for it. Because I wanted to. I was like, I think I know what this game should look like. So I just made all the art.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to you again personally several times. The art for this is just so striking. The colors just like absolutely jump off the table at you. It's gorgeous. And I think something also for folks watching, just to know that like we didn't commission this. I mean, as you just mentioned, we didn't commission this from you. Like it was like we were working on the Tanglewoods thing kind of together, and you were like, "Oh, hey, I've got this other thing. Would you want to look at it?" And we were like, "Yeah, whatever, okay, sure." And then we played it, and Josh Carlson and I, and we loved it. And it was like, "Oh, I definitely see this." We've been talking at Chip Theory for many years about a need in our catalog, and 20 Strong was kind of the first stab at that. A need in our catalog for more affordable things. We will forever do the giant, insane box stuff. That's what we've built our entire kind of foundation and pedigree on. But we don't want to be known only for that. And there's a limit in the marketplace for how many people can afford that or want to afford that or so on and so forth. And so we've been talking for years about wanting a really small game, 20 Strong, and we've been talking for years about wanting a medium weight, easier to get to the table game that's also more affordable, and this kind of just hit that sweet spot right out of the gate, which we were really, really excited about. So I know one of the questions that's been popping around in the chat is what's the price point targeted for this, and how are you deluxifying it in the materials, and we'll talk about all that. We're aiming for a MSRP. So again, this would not be the campaign price, but we're aiming for an MSRP of between $40 and $60 on this game. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to be able to do it. Like we've crunched some of the numbers, and again, some of the components we're not quite sure what we're going to do with them just yet. But that's what we're looking at for the base game price is between $40 and $60 MSRP, and I think we'll be able to do that. The other thing I'll mention is you taught this game to Josh and myself, and we played a full PvP game of it in about an hour and a half with the teach. With the teach. And I definitely felt like I knew what I was doing and I understood exactly what was happening. So we want more games on our catalog that people don't feel like they need to send the rest of their game group a 3-hour video talking about how to play this character before you can even jump in. Right. And I think this is a great example of that. Cool. Tell us a little bit about the universe that this game takes place in, because I know you might be sort of semi-secretly working on a little comic book.
That is a true statement.
In the background on this. Yeah. Tell us about this world. What's happening
so,
here?
Wroth was kind of created initially, like the illustration on the map is kind of like this hill, right? So there's like you're climbing this hill towards the middle, and the victory points obviously can change, but the very first iteration, the top was always worth 3 points. Mm-hmm. So it was like the king of the hill. Mm-hmm. So like I jokingly called it Koth initially because I was like, oh, that'd be kind of fun, but there are many games out there called Koth actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's multiple.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, that'd be kind of fun. What if it's this like overly saturated, bright-colored fantasy world of people that are just constantly battling and fighting in their regalness, in their pride over this hill, over this mountainous area. And then, of course, when you add the co-op, then the idea that while they're in the middle of just their, call it pointless, like battling, incessant battling, then like out of the middle of this island pops the Uglon, which is kind of the orcs and goblins of the world. And thus that kind of created the co-op nature, the idea that okay, they all have to stop fighting for a little while. Mm-hmm. They're going to get back to that later. Mm-hmm. But they can't let this nasty outside force come in and take over. So like within the comic book I'm creating, it's kind of like these little vignettes of like what motivates the Coda to want to do this? What motivates the Alden and the Vena and all that kind of stuff? And a lot of it is kind of this pomp and circumstance surrounding their people. So that's kind of like the heart of the story.
Yeah, that's great. That's cool. So this is the first outside design we've ever published at Chip Theory, or wherever. I mean, it's not published yet, but that we're working on. And so there has been questions already in the chat. Again, I mentioned the components about how is this going to be chip theorified and so on and so forth, still hit that price point. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So this map, this internal or this main map that goes in the middle of the table, this will be neoprene. We are planning on making the reference cards for each faction. Those will just be PVC. We plan on probably offering a neoprene upgrade pack for those that want it, but again, in the name of keeping this a more affordable game, that's kind of what we're planning on doing. As far as the cubes and all that kind of stuff, so again, external designs are interesting for us to watch, because when we're designing, we're always thinking about chips, like for better or for worse.
Yep.
And some people would claim for worse. We're always thinking about chips, right? What can we do with a chip? How can we add a magnet that turns chips into dials and counters? And how can we integrate with chips? This, you came to us with cubes and some of the little crystal, like resin crystals that you've seen in other games. Everdell and several others use them, Aeon's End and that kind of thing. And so there's still some of those types of things that we're still looking at in terms of how we're going to integrate that and how we're going to chip theorify that. But again, the idea here is that we are going to keep it affordable. We want an all-in on this campaign to, including if we launch with expansion factions or that kind of thing, want that to be around $100 all in for everything when it's all said and done. So anyway, that's a little bit about there's been a few different questions about the components and that kind of thing. Manny always has great art. Is that where the game started, or did you start with the mechanics? I'd be actually interested to hear not just about this, but in general, when you're designing things, do you start with art?
I kind of work in tandem. This actually started first with just actually pencil lines on paper and some dice with some stickers on them. And then I had actually made a couple of pieces of the art for fun separately. And then once I'd made it, I thought, well, area control game, it just fits to have kind of factions and warring factions. So very quickly, the art merged with the game design. And especially when I work on my own projects, I have a tendency to kind of mash them both together and do them at the same time, because the art and the style kind of influences some of the gameplay. And then the gameplay starts to influence, well, what do I want these dice to look like? What do I want the abilities to look like? What about the score tracker? How should that look? And then, so it kind of, this one specifically, the gameplay came first, but within like 3 days, I had like made a bunch of the art. So it kind of like merged together quickly.
Right. You've talked to us about this offline several times, but you are really quick with art, and it disturbs me a little bit. So
excellent. Perfect.
I can't believe how, I mean, again, like when we started talking about Tanglewoods and it was like a week later, it's like, oh, here's 75 different pieces. It wasn't 75, but it was a lot. That's phenomenal. How likely is it that the cubes will be minis? The cubes will not be minis. I don't expect that there'll be cubes at the end of the day, but minis would be challenging. You move a lot of these around on the map during gameplay, and having them be anything other than kind of small would be a challenge, especially if you're playing like 4-player. The map can get very busy, and you need to be able to very, very quickly identify exactly what's what on the table. So I do want to also tackle, just because I was mentioning it earlier. So this game has PvP. The PvP is great. I've played it. It has co-op. The co-op is coming along super nicely. I'm really excited about that. And
solo.
You
can play it solo.
And it can also be played solo, largely with the same rules as co-op, I believe, right?
Yep.
Still,
it's exactly the same thing.
And I've talked a lot about in Cloudspire how if we could go back to Cloudspire and do it over again, we actually would probably pull a couple of the modes maybe out of the box just for marketing purposes, so that we could like clarify that message. And then here we are again doing this game with all the different modes, and you can play it in all the different ways. But I think that the key difference here, again, compared to Cloudspire, is just simplicity. It is the ability to get this to the table. You don't have an insane amount of keywords for your faction. Does every faction have 3 unique units? Is that set in stone? Like how they talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, they do not. All the factions are asymmetrical. They all have a once per game ability. They all have different types of, whether they're units or in the case of like Dakota, they have bear traps. The Venom over here have cauldrons. Cauldrons allow them to resurrect the dead on the map. Whereas the Alden have, one of their abilities is to volley. And so they need to have their troops in place, and then they can volley and attack the table at different locations. So, but no, not every faction always has 3 units.
But they do, they're all doing very unique things. I've played Dakota. That was the first faction that I played when I played PvP and first learned the game, and then I played the Guild, which are not on the table presently. I played them when we played co-op at Gen Con. I'll just ask this. What's your favorite, like, what are you most excited about with this game? What's the thing that really get like if you're explaining to this game to somebody, where do you start in terms of what's the highlight?
I think area control games are a very popular genre. Often they're very large and kind of intimidating, whether it's with the miniatures, with the massive boards, with the huge amount of setup and rules. And so this to me is kind of like, my wife loves Risk. She loves Risk. My boys love Risk.
Like, loves Risk.
They love Risk. Okay. Absolutely love it.
I don't know that I've ever met anyone who has a true love for Risk.
I do not.
Yes.
I do not. And so I just told her this the other day. I said, my hope is that you'll play this with me instead of Risk. Because this is, when you play it the first time, you will realize that there's a simplicity to how it executes and plays out. But when you finish the game, you should realize, oh, there's a whole lot of different stuff I could do. Oh, I saw what you did. Oh, if I had done this. Oh, if I had prepped here and saved my resources and used my dice more effectively, that kind of stuff. I want to play again, and I want to try those guys.
Right.
And so I think that the hope is that it's easy enough to enter into, but deep enough that people want to dive deeper into it. And you can't really dive into Risk. Like, it's quite literally the same iterative game every time.
Yeah.
And I grew up playing it. I dislike it now, but I get why people like it. And so to me, this is like that evolution in my mind. It's like an evolution from simpler games like a Risk.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Question came in. Where does the title Wroth come from? You kind of touched on that a little bit.
I did. What was funny, I was talking with the guys at Roxley and Adam, who works there. We were talking about Koth and Wrath, and he was like, you call it Wroth, which is like the weird old English version of the word wrath. And then he's like, it says, we really own that hill. And while it's not actually
I didn't
acronym,
even know that.
No.
Okay.
It's not actually meant to be an acronym, but it was kind of a fun joke on the whole King of the Hill idea.
Right.
So, no, we really own that hill.
Right. Yeah.
So that's just a silly aside.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. And then gameplay-wise, in which way is Wroth really different from other area control games?
So I think
why do you like this and you hate Risk?
So part of the reason what I like about this, so like the idea of having static abilities every turn or actions you can take, I dislike the static nature of any game, which is why I like dice. And this game, the menu of actions you can take each round are determined by us rolling all of the action dice. And then this becomes our menu for the round. So now the question I like to ask myself in any game is, what do I do with what I have? And what I have right now is I can move and deploy, I can all move, I can kind of drop ship guys, or I can attack. What do I want to do this turn? What's the right strategy to play? But there's also this menu on the score tracker that after I've drafted dice, I could choose to sacrifice them both to take the action that I choose. And so the variability of the action pool I really enjoy. And then on top of it, each region will be denoted with these score markers, and these will be randomly placed every game. So it's not always going to be a King of the Hill. This could be over here, right? And if that 3 is over here, that island is going to be where people are going to be trying to fight for. And on top of it, not only do you gain victory points, but you also gain region scoring bonuses. And then I like the idea of having characterful troops that are full of character. Characterful.
Characterful.
And so with each faction, they have like specifically the Vena have the hags and the acolytes, and they have cauldrons, and the Tiro are their grunts that they run around with, and like each one has its own specific like actions and abilities they can take, and learning how to master each one of those and when are they most useful, and how do I optimize or play it in a way that is dynamic yet efficient. So.
And it does. I mean, again, I've played the game twice. Again, 2 different modes, and you do. If you want to succeed, you have to lean into your faction. There's just there's no other way. And again, the board was very different in both games that we played. I think when you taught us PvP, the Hill did end up being like kind of where we were really trying to go. The co-op was very different, and it is not really that way. So I love the asymmetry, and I love the fact that I just love the fact that I could learn the game so fast. I talk a lot about how I don't have time to play any of the games that Chip Theory makes on my own time. Not that I'm dying to play the games that I work on all day at home anyway, but my current lifestyle is like, with kids and career and all the other things I've got going on, it's like I have time to sit down and play like Unmatched for a couple minutes with my kids, or I can play Chicken from Keymaster Games, which takes about 10 minutes. Like, that's where I'm at in life. And so, and people ask me all the time, they're like, hey, teach me Too Many Bones, teach me Cloudspire, teach me whatever. And I'm like, I don't have time. I honestly, I just don't have time. And so I love that this still keeps that asymmetrical kind of ethos that we've been working with for forever, as well, largely with keywords and that kind of thing. But this, you can really pick this up fast, and that makes it a game that I might actually get to the table that we make, and so that's really exciting to me. Do the game rules change pending where the hill location is? I.e., are there different scenarios or anything?
No, they do not. So when the values of regions change, it just influences kind of the flow of traffic. So when you're moving and deploying, so when I'm moving people, you can move one region, and there's currently 8 regions on the map. But when you're on an island out here, there's only one thoroughfare to it, so it makes it more difficult for people on the mainland to get out there. But the advantage of the outer islands is that deployment zone is technically anywhere on the ground. So even though I'm here, when I move, I can actually come along the ground and pop up over here on this island. So the way the movement is actually, you kind of have to be careful if you think you're protecting an island. From the mainland, people can kind of sail their boats up along the edge of it to come up onto the island and take over. So, yeah, perfect. You don't park it on it. You got to park it off to the side. There you go. You park there.
I'm still a novice.
Yes. So yeah. So no, when in the PvP mode, you're not actually changing the scenario. The co-op is a fully different scenario, but that's really you're defeating the enemy.
Sure.
I
was just gonna say I could certainly see us like offering some, like, even though the scoring is randomized across all the regions, I could certainly see us offering. We're often criticized for not offering up like an intro scenario or like various scenarios in that way. So we may go ahead and offer some, like, hey, here's some setups that do a specific thing as it relates to what you might be fighting over or how things might shake out. So how many factions will be available in the base box?
5?
I think 5, yes.
5 is right. They're not, they're not all.
This is still being talked about in the background. So one of the things I should just say. So when Manny pitched us the game, the faction that you were fighting against, he mentioned the Uglon in co-op and solo. It was the Uglon. And then the thought was like, oh, there'll also be a playable faction in PvP, that kind of thing. And one thing that we are trying to do, and I'm not going to promise this because we need to see how development shakes out and that sort of thing, is we want every faction actually to be playable as an opponent in PvP and co-op. So, but right now, there is 5, including the Uglon, and the one that's not on the table that's in the base is
the Rune and the dwarves.
Yeah. The dwarves. So, and you've already heard me mention another faction that I've already played. So yes, we are looking at offering some additional factions as an expansion. But again, we want to keep this base set as tight and curated as possible. So, is there a possibility of a reversible playmat with 2 different maps?
I mean, I don't think that's off the table. There is not currently, but I think that's not unreasonable.
Yep, that is possible. Will the solo mode really be enticing? No, it will be really bad. Won't it feel like originally PvP game that's playable in solo against an automa? I'm speaking from one game of co-op, so whatever. Take this with a grain of salt. It felt very, very different. It's not the same as going toe to toe with another human, because again the actions that the AI can take aren't necessarily fully dependent on like the dice that are being rolled, the general dice pool and that kind of thing. But I don't know if you have more.
I think one of the design intentions with the AI is that it is specifically chaotic, and I could try to imagine what you would do when we're playing, but the AI will choose to abandon islands to rush the middle, or they will, if we all try to gather around them in a certain region, they will potentially disperse evenly throughout the whole map. And trying to figure out, knowing the options they have available, how are we going to stop them? They also have infinite troops, whereas players have a finite amount. So at the beginning of the game, it might feel like we got enough resources, we have enough to do what we want. But as the game progresses and the longer we allow it to go, it becomes increasingly difficult. But they also they have all the action dice have a different, potentially more intense ability for the AI factions. So I am not specifically a co-op player, and I have played the solo mode a bunch of times now, and I really enjoy the puzzle of it.
And again, we're not looking to do what we did with Cloudspire with this game. We're not looking to do a 20 mission like super intense, super bespoke solo campaign.
Nope.
Everything about what we're doing, and I say we lightly because it's Manny's game, but one of the reasons it appeals to us is because it can be set up quickly, you can understand it quickly, and it's trying to do a very different thing than maybe some of the things in our $150 price point, as an example.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's really intentionally about an evening of game.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the, there's often a desire within co-ops or solo is that it's this progression over time, and those are beautiful. But this is not meant to be that.
Correct. Yep. In light of 20 Strong and the Betrayal of the Second Era campaigns, are you planning on continuing to produce language versions? Well, funny story. So I should have mentioned this actually during the Hoplo segment. So for Victorum and for Remastered, we have commitments from Frosted to do German on both the new Hoplo content and the existing Hoplo content. I'm trying to think, I should probably check my Skype between segments here when we jump to the next break to get, but we do have a couple other languages coming for Hoplo. When we mentioned to pretty much every single partner that we are working with for Elder Scrolls, which I think is 12 different languages that we're doing for Elder Scrolls, we mentioned to them offhand, like, hey, we're working on this thing with Manny Trembley, and before we could even finish saying Trembley, they're like, yeah, we're in, yeah, whatever it is, we're ready, let's go. Because of the success of, I believe, your Unaccountant,
I believe that is the
comic
reason.
book, that's the main thing that's been driving. there's you've done one other game that was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I forget the name of it.
Yeah. But no, because of the success of Dice Throne worldwide, everybody was just like, "Oh, Manny, yeah, cool, we're in, absolutely." So for Wroth, I think we have already commitments pretty much from all 12 of the language partners that we've been working with.
I didn't know that. But
that's
cool.
Yeah. So they're in. That's happening with Hoplo because of the Elder Scrolls, actually. Because they're all waiting for the Elder Scrolls, and the Elder Scrolls, as I mentioned, has a lot of text to translate, like a lot. They're a little bit more hesitant to take on Hoplo right now, given that those two games are kind of on the same trajectory and the same timeline. This game has way less text, way less narrative and that kind of thing. So everybody's ready to jump. So yeah, as it relates to languages, Hoplo will have a little bit more on that next week. We do have some language partners coming on board that we didn't have on the original campaign. This game, though, sky's the limit in terms of potential language partners, which is great. We're very excited about that. Let's see. Are there any cards in this game, Manny?
So each faction has one card.
Okay.
And that card represents their once per game triumphant feat, whatever they're called in game.
Their ultimate ability.
Their ultimate ability, as it were. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to call it an ultimate ability. But yeah, they have currently on these boards, there's like a little block of text here. That'll be removed. It'll go onto a card. That card, when you use it, you'll just flip it over. It'll have unique art on it. There is currently not a ton of art across, character art across this. And you had actually suggested it, the idea of having a card that allowed for almost a narrative of that action or that special event. Like the codas is specifically like 3 guys on the map all of a sudden hulk out and become these grizzled warriors, right? And so how do I depict that on a card? And that would be super fun. So those are currently the only cards.
Right. Which is also, again, one of the reasons, not that cards are terribly expensive, but it's, again, the relatively component light nature of the game and art light nature of the game, though all the art that's here is beautiful, is what allows us to kind of keep it within that price range and makes it a game that's attractive for us to publish. Will there be a demo of Wroth at Essen? Probably not. I'm not. We've been asked this about Elder Scrolls too. Probably not, just again because we want to have it a little bit further along in terms of like maybe having a shinier prototype than this to show off. And we're just limited in the amount of demo space that we have, generally speaking, and we want to be demoing the things that we have actively there to sell. So probably not, but maybe we'll have a prototype along, and if you ask nicely, we can show it to you. I said that about Elder Scrolls, completely underestimating the number of people that would ask me to see the demo copy at Gen Con. So I'm probably underestimating how many of you are going to come up to me in a few weeks in Germany and ask to see this prototype too. But whatever. I said what I said. I think that is all. Any other Wroth questions in the chat? I don't think so. That kind of touches on everything that we were going to look at. So we've got one more pre-recorded segment taking a very early look at the Tanglewoods 20 Strong campaign. So that's the next 20 Strong campaign we've got coming sometime next summer. You've done a lot of the art for that already. You are working on some of the graphic design for that, if not all of the graphic design for that. And then you also pitched the initial thesis for the initial 20 Strong Tanglewoods deck. Before we jump into this pre-recorded segment, is there anything else you want to say about the Tanglewoods universe and what you're dreaming up?
No, I mean, I don't know if in the video it touches on it, but I think it was very fun. I created it because you had launched your 20 Strong campaign. And that was when I called, or I texted Adam. And I was like, how come you didn't ask me to help make some art on a game? And he's like, come on in, let's talk about it. So that kind of got the ball rolling in that discussion. So, but yeah, I did my standard garbage where I was like, all right, I'll see you on Monday. It was Friday, and I was like, I'm gonna play this demo, and I'm gonna bring a prototype to you. And I created the 3-deck game system that weekend. So
So it has since been handed off to Logan, who was talking earlier, and I think we're going to have him back for, or possibly Josh Carlson. I don't even know what's happening after this next pre-recorded segment. But we're working on it internally as well. But we're really excited about this universe. If you're unaware, Manny's been a friend of Chip Theory for years. You've known Adam specifically for
years,
forever,
for many years. Yeah.
Before either company, before Dice Throne was a thing, really before even Too Many Bones was really a thing. I think you guys were, or at least
I've known him for a number of years.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what year when I met him the first time.
So we're excited. We're excited to be partnering because I think we've been mutual admirers of each other's work for many years. So. Yeah. Again, I don't know if you're coming back or not for the next segment, but thank you for being here, Manny. Thank you for showing off Wroth. If you've got more questions in the chat, let them rip. But for now, enjoy this early look at 20 Strong Tanglewoods.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our discussion of 20 Strong Tanglewoods. I'm Ryan Howard.
I'm Manny Trembley.
20 Strong, our first kind of trio of games, is coming out pretty soon to everybody who backed it, and then it will be available for purchase after that for everyone who didn't back it. But if you backed it, you probably noticed something extra, kind of. I mean, we promised it in the campaign, but it's an extra thing outside of like the normal boxes, which is these 3 kind of universal heroes, which have a very different art style than mostly what we usually do here. So Manny, you drew that stuff, right?
I did draw that stuff, yes.
So this is kind of a preview of something that's going to be going on next summer, right? We've got 3 decks coming up in a campaign next summer. They're called 20 Strong Tanglewoods, and then there's the red deck, the white deck, and the gold deck, right?
Correct, yep.
And this is actually kind of one of the ways that you kind of first got involved with us, right?
Correct, yeah. Actually during the 20 Strong campaign, I had reached out to Adam Carlson, and I said, hey, you guys are making a game. You didn't ask me to make any art for it? And he laughed, and he was like, well, why don't you come in and you can play Solar Sentinels? And so I came in, it was on a Friday, and Josh and Adam taught me Solar Sentinels, and I was like, I think I have an idea. Can I make my own 20 Strong deck? And they were like, sure. And I went home that weekend and I made the first red deck. And I drew the art for it, and I was like, on Monday I'll come back and I'll pitch it to you guys. And I came back and I pitched not 1 deck, but 3 decks. And kind of this idea of a ongoing fable or an expanded world of characters and environments.
That's one of the things I think is really fun about 20 Strong, is that it feels like it kind of invites like this iteration, because it's such a simple system that like I think even like last weekend I was working on like an idea for a 20 Strong thing. I was like, oh, here's like 3 more ideas I could have. You know? So like it really lends itself to that.
Oh, totally.
So kind of what was, you said obviously it's fables based, but like what is kind of like the overarching like kind of mood, or like what do you want to convey like visually, artistically, like kind of story wise with these decks?
Yeah, when I first started creating it, I have a real kind of a bent towards fantasy or fairy tale lore and art, but I like it to have just a little bit of a darkness to it, just a little bit of eeriness behind the candy color and the fun and the lighthearted quality of it. But that weekend when I was working on it, I had this idea of what if like these 3 games were built around this idea of Tanglewoods being this all-encompassing forest, and it's kind of alive, and it has denizens and creatures that work for it and protect and operate within it. And then there are kind of these bad guys, Big Bad Wolf, and these different types of characters that are almost emissaries. They speak for the trees, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I thought that would just be kind of a fun, and because I think things through kind of narratively, I was like, if I made this into a storybook or a comic book or something like that, this would be kind of like the red book and the gold and the and the white.
Yeah.
Kind of a fun narrative to play through.
One of the big things you said too is like the woods being kind of like a character in the game, and you want that to kind of be something that can interact with people in like kind of different sort of adversarial ways like over time, right?
Yep.
So we actually have like a very kind of early prototype copy of Red here, and hopefully in the stream we might have something a little bit more. But we have the way it works in red is that you have like these double-sided woods cards that you kind of are building up, and then as you kind of go, they sort of disappear. You can go either day or night. Night is always a little harder. You can kind of explore ahead of time, and then you kind of move through these areas so that you are going to different sorts of things, like doing with your enemy, you're going to like a fable or a merchant. The merchant's going to be in all the games, and doing different things based on that. And it's that's one way you navigate through, but then we might not have that for another one. For something we've talked about doing for white is like maybe making the cards themselves the woods, and you're kind of moving around like on a grid. There's other ways we talked about going through that as well. So it's kind of a fun thing where we don't want to like drown people in rules. Obviously it is different than the other 20 strong decks, but like we want them to feel similar to each other, but feel also like distinct enough that you might choose to play this one over this one on this day, and maybe on this day you want to play this one over this one.
Right.
So one big thing, actually, there's a few other kind of big differences between this and like the stuff we've seen so far in 20 Strong. So one of the big ones is the heroes themselves. So these three heroes we have out here, Sprig and Rump and Tink, or they have different names on the other side, but they are all double-sided heroes. So obviously you have double-sided heroes in Too Many Bones, but like that's kind of like upgrading them, whereas the heroes in this game have like two distinct sides where you can flip them back and forth based on different triggers on the cards, and then depending on what side you are on, they have like a unique power. So for example, like this Jack of the Beanstalk, this is Jack of and the Beanstalk fame, and so he's got his one side, his Jack side is when damage from a green defeats an enemy, you can heal for 1, but anytime you have 5 or more health, you flip them over, and then his other side is in the apply dice step, you may subtract 2 from your health to change a miss to a crit, or up to 2 hits to 2 crits. Then you can flip them. So basically, like there's this interplay of healing and then like taking damage to like juice your character and juice your hits and stuff whenever you need.
I like that it's almost like situational upgrades. Right, where is it time? Is it time to flip this? Do I want to flip this over to kind of go a little bit? Is the situation present itself where Sprig is a better choice?
Yeah, it definitely has added like a new kind of like wrinkle to the design process too, where you're kind of like, you have to think about it here, you have to think about like 2 ideas, but also like how can those ideas like work in concert with each other to like create like a dynamic where like, because I think ideally you want people to be flipping the card, like you want people to feel like it's not like always better to be on this side over another side, and so how do you kind of like get that dynamic going has been an interesting challenge. So it's an interesting challenge, but I think there's gonna be some really cool heroes, and then obviously anchored by like your art is pretty neat.
Cool, thanks.
So that sounds a little damn with faint praise. It's good art. I like it. So I'm trying to think of some other differences. So I know one thing, a big thing about this is, so we've been using the chip counter thing in different ways across these games, and this one is used to calculate your gold that you have. So most of the enemies, not all of them I don't think, but most of the enemies that you get in this game, instead of giving you like a reward, like a single use or an ongoing or an instant or whatever, you get gold, and then you use gold at the merchant, and there's going to be different ways you can access the merchant when you're in the woods. And you can use that to buy stuff, like you can buy additional dice, you can buy stat upgrades, you can buy, and that's where you buy items too. So this deck is, I think, going to be a little bit bigger in card amount than some of the ones we've done in the past, because we kind of are splitting out the items from the enemies, which is different than what we've done in the past.
Can you bribe the enemies?
Yes, and then that's the other thing you can do with the gold. Yeah, is that you can most enemies will have like a bribe amount, and so there is kind of like this push and pull of like, when is it worth sacrificing enough dice to like beat this thing and get the gold, versus like spending gold to get rid of them so I don't have to deal with them. And then also like all of these guys on the backs have these fables, which are like also like basically different kind of like out of combat things that happen to you essentially that will then have different positive or negative effects. So and those might be kind of like carried out in different ways by each deck. Like for example, in white right now, again, it's very early in the process, but like rather than those being like backed to each other, like the backs of all the cards in that one right now are like woods cards, and then when you flip them up, it might be a fable or it might be an enemy. So there's different ways of interacting with those things, but still kind of like the fables are still there, the merchant's still there, bribing is still there, gold rewards are still there. So it still feels like a unified vision. For all of these, instead of having like multiple bosses or like bosses you choose from, we have kind of like one unified enemy for each deck. So we've got the Big Bad Wolf and the Goldilocks Three Bears, and then like the stepmother / witch queen, whatever we end up calling her.
Right.
And it's going to work a little bit, not exactly how like the Tyrant encounters work in the Too Many Bones deck, but like kind of like that, where it's like you have kind of opportunities to weaken yourself and temporarily to make the enemy weaker at the end, or you can strengthen yourself temporarily to make the enemy stronger at the end. So like there's all these different modifiers right now that you can have to the Big Bad Wolf. So like matted fur, gnawing hunger, king of the night, big teeth, big eyes, and there are ways you can get rid of those by taking out like the kind of the henchman to the Big Bad Wolf. But if you don't, then at the end those get applied to the Big Bad Wolf, and he
gets real hard.
Yeah, he gets very difficult. So we're trying to come up with like ways to like make it different and interesting to like interact with these characters in a cool way. And there's a fun cast of characters too. So like I know with Little Red Riding Hood, she's got among other heroes, there's like Bo Peep, and on the other side is like the Flock. That's like one of my favorite ones because there's some really cool effects on this one. Yeah, there's lots of like kind of cool places to play in this one. I think it'll definitely feel like 20 Strong, but I think it'll definitely also feel like its own thing, that it feels very unique to like your sensibilities and to just like the sensibilities of like this universe that we're making. Just like in our other games, some of these heroes will also be universal. That's important to say too. We're trying to put a universal hero, like at least one in every deck. So like for example, all three of these are universal, which you can tell by the little universal icon here. Okay. But then those will all be, so that means they're usable in the ones we have now. Those will also be usable in Tanglewoods, but then Tanglewoods will also have at least three, for one for each deck, if not more than that, universal heroes that could be used across all the line too. So it makes the other games like kind of a little bit expandable in their own way too, which is kind of neat. It's always interesting when you play those universal heroes, because like they're definitely designed for one deck or the other usually, and so you can definitely play with them, but like then you kind of discover like these unique difficulties or advantages or things that you can kind of manipulate in their own ways, which is kind of a fun thing. So.
It's pretty cool. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited to see it come into shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be cool. We've got a lot of projects going right now, but this is definitely one that's on the radar for us that we are working on already, and it's going to be exciting. Yeah, everybody, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, because we're going to be answering questions right now in the live stream.
All right, we are back, and we is you again.
It is,
I guess.
Yeah.
And we're wearing the same clothes we were wearing.
Right. I'm Josh Wilgus.
Sitting in the same position we were sitting in. It's great. Hope you enjoyed that sneak peek of 20 Strong Tanglewoods. Again, that campaign is coming next summer. So, and 20 Strong proper, this stuff that you see in front of you with Solar Sentinels, Too Many Bones, and Hoplomachus will be fulfilling in roughly the next month-ish, directly drop shipped from China, so we're avoiding ocean freight altogether. We will have an update coming for backers on that very, very soon. And in the meantime, if you're interested in 20 Strong in general, all of this is available for pre-order on our website with an anticipated ship date for pre-orders of sometime by the end of this year. So very excited about that. Very excited about all of the stuff that we have announced today. We're going to grab your Tanglewoods questions real quick, the few that we see before we bring it on home. But somebody was asking, is Tanglewoods a property that exists in comics or something? Like we keep talking about it like it's this huge universe that like already exists. And the answer to that is no. It exists nowhere except in these 20 Strong decks.
And in the mind of Manny. For now. So we felt, again, we're in the middle of the 20 Strong campaign.
when was that? Last fall? Yeah. I can't remember. We're in the middle of the 20 Strong campaign. And as Manny was mentioning earlier, he texted Adam and was like, "How come you're not having me like work on any art or anything for this? You're exploring new art styles. Like, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And that's how he kind of got involved. He came in, he got a demo of Solar Sentinels. He went home that weekend, came back on Monday with a prototype Tanglewoods deck, because that's just how Manny operates. Yeah. And then he kind of proposed this fairy tale world. Now, if you've seen like Wonderland's War from Skybound, you know, obviously there's some parallels there. Like it's public domain fairy tale like IP kind of situation. But we love the art style. We love where he's taking it, and we are working in the background on the idea of a larger box like Tanglewoods game, which is kind of the reverse of what we're doing with 20 Strong in general, where we take a bigger property and shrink it down. This would be potentially the opposite of that.
Leading with the 20 Strong side.
Yeah, which is, you know, I don't know, it's a little backwards, but that's where we're going. We anticipate this being a universe that we will continue to play in, continue to develop in over the course of the next several years, just because we just find the art style so striking. What's funny, one of my favorite comments that I've seen on YouTube in a long time was somebody, when we put out our videos kind of, or maybe it was even a content creator, put out a video showing off the different things of 20 Strong and showed off the promo cards with Manny's art. And somebody commented like, that art on Manny's promo cards is really jarring. It looks nothing like the other 3 decks.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. Exactly. That is exactly what we want. That's perfect. 20 Strong is our opportunity to explore endless amounts of universes, endless amounts of art styles, partnerships, etc. You know, you've heard me mention before in past streams, possibly even the idea of partnering with other game companies and doing 20 Strong decks based on other games that aren't chip theory games, and we remain very open to that. We haven't talked with Bethesda about this because Elder Scrolls is still in the works heavily, but you know, we'd love to do a 20 Strong Elder Scrolls deck at some point as well. Like, this is really our opportunity to have this system go in a myriad of different places. So
there is a good representation with our artists right now, with Anthony's art and with Solar Sentinels, Chris's art, and then Federico on a lot of the Victorium.
Yeah, a lot of the Victorium art was done by our artist Federico.
Yeah, 4 different artists after Tanglewoods.
Represented. Yeah, and you know, the fact that Manny pitched us essentially a trilogy of decks, all using his art, was a unique thing. But I think that's also going to be something that really helps like separate and sell the Tanglewoods experience as a holistic thing. So 20 Strong, early reviews are starting to drop. We handed it off to a bunch of content creators at Gen Con, and all of the reception for it has been just tremendously positive. We're so excited to get this into backers' hands, and then also just to continue to explore games in this system. So there you go. Any news on a big box Solar Sentinels? No, nothing to announce right now. We're getting to that weird point as a company. You know, we were talking about Cloud Spire earlier as well. We have so many now, like franchises and lines and stuff, that it's going to be hard to keep everybody happy with what we're putting out for every single line. But
we're gonna have to pick and choose even more and more.
Right. Yeah. We do love the art for Solar Sentinels. We do love that universe as well.
Yep.
I'm certain we'll do something else in that universe eventually. But we'll have to see. There's nothing in the works right now, genuinely. Again, I'm not winking at you when I say that. Are any of the Tanglewoods characters going to be compatible with the other 3 boxes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So go.
Yeah, it's the same universal hero icons that we'll put on, and the intent there is, again, we've talked about it before, but the intent there is to give you the ability to try out some of these heroes in the other decks. They're not going to be. We're not trying to make these decks so universally compatible that all heroes will work with and transfer seamlessly. And even the ones that we designate you're going to find ones that work or that are a challenge to play through. That's kind of the fun of it, though, is to see if you can, if you're up to the challenge of using, this hero with this deck, because they are all work, as far as mechanics go, they all work.
You'll also likely at some point come across a hero that's probably very overpowered for
right.
certain things. Just again, it's part of the kind of the collectability of what we're trying to do with this system. And again, it's just kind of fun to try, right? Like it's an experiment, and sometimes it'll be awesome, other times it'll be a little weird, and whatever. It's part of fun. Will I be able to get the base 20 strong game in a bundle with the 3 new decks? We're still talking about that. Again, this campaign's not coming till next summer. And I think we've got it kind of worked out in the background how we want to approach it, but we're still having those conversations. And again, based on how well this box with Solar Sentinels in it continues to sell in the interim until next summer, that will also inform kind of some of how we approach the new set. But we are planning right now to have a new core box likely that has Tanglewoods in it, just because we want to leverage Manny's art and Manny's notoriety and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see.
And it's cool to have a dice set that has the icons that are themed with a 3-deck, set like that. Obviously, we wanted to try to be a little bit cognizant of the system allowing you to have one set of dice and all these decks, and not like be rolling out dice sets after dice sets when they're doing the same thing. But a little bit of customization there is fun, and we'll kind of feel that out for how everyone wants to engage with that as a new component of like new dice sets. We'll see. I'm sure alloys are going to get asked for. Actually, I think they were. All to be discussed at a future date.
But we'll probably do it. We'll probably do it. Even though the alloy dice will cost like far and away more than the game itself, but oh well. Is there possible there may be non-card gameplay components added to the box of Tanglewoods? No. Again, we have that single chip in the box that we've shown off before with the magnetic tracker and that kind of thing, and that's really meant to kind of handle the other stuff. This is meant to be a card experience. It's how we keep it affordable. It's meant to play quickly. It's meant to not have a lot of rules overhead, generally speaking. And so that's all of that. And selling these for, like $20 and keeping that price point firm. We want to keep them decks of cards. That's really just what we want to do. Yeah.
Tanglewood's proper, when we go there, absolutely. There will be a lot of different components.
Right. Oh, yes. Yeah. When we do a larger box. Yeah. We've got. That's for the next GameFound feast. Yeah, that's not for today. That's not for. But there's stuff brewing.
Yes.
There's stuff brewing. Yes. If 20 strong is too many bones, etc., shrunk down, and Tanglewoods is the opposite, is there a possibility of a larger? Okay. Yeah, we've talked about that already. Sorry, I should have read that question in my head before I read it out loud. Alex from Board Game Co. Hi, Alex. If you're watching, had his updated top solo games vid drop today, and 20 strong is in there. That makes me so happy. It's not even out yet. Makes me happy. Cool. Yeah, that's so gratifying to hear. Again, check out Not Board Gaming. Mark Dainty has also dropped his review of 20 Strong. It's very, very strong. And I just, every time, I have to say strong as many times as possible. Given that dice were the component that slowed down production and that Tanglewoods would be cards, what would be your goal between campaign and fulfillment? That's a good question. Our hope, genuinely, is that, crowdfunding gets talked about as a glorified pre-order a lot, but our hope is that basically we can hit print the next day after the campaign closes for Tanglewoods. It's all this stuff is we keep talking about it being fairly far along, and it genuinely is fairly far along. We have to space out campaigns though, because campaigns, as we've talked about a myriad of times, essentially grind the entire company to a halt when we run them. There are a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of graphic design goes into each campaign and that kind of thing. There's logistics all over the place. So this is going to be as close to a ready to print. I think both Wroth actually and Tanglewoods are going to be very close to, we're hoping, ready to print at the time the campaign runs, to the point that we can basically hit go shortly thereafter. With the amount of translations and stuff, it probably won't be quite that seamless, but
yeah, the other thing with the complexities with campaigns is we just don't want so much overlap. Like we are changing the model slightly, where we're not always going to be offering our whole product catalog in the pledge managers. Especially like with 20 Strong, it was much easier and it allowed for us to do this drop ship kind of a thing from China. But we're going to be testing that out a little bit further with even like this campaign is the likely the Victorum and Hoplo new content campaign.
Right.
So
more pre-packaged bundles is kind of what
right.
we're trying to get to a place of, instead of like massive customization.
And that's because we want to defend this whole free shipping model that we've been trying to work toward, and we'll see if we can defend it enough to keep it in place. But those are some of the changes we need to consider in order to make that possible. So.
Right. Yeah. Amanda, the iPad has gone to the locked screen, and I am afraid. I'm not actually afraid. I'll tackle one other question that I have off the top of my head. So related to that, somebody asked, can you add Riffle to the Elder Scrolls Pledge Manager? And the answer to that is no. So part of that is, like we offer free shipping on certain things in certain ways as a promotion, as part of a discount. But also we're always trying to get people to engage on our website. Our website sales are a super important revenue stream for us that kind of keeps the company afloat between campaigns. That's really important. And when we don't have super exclusive things ever dropping on the website, aside from like the holiday season, it affects web sales in a negative way. So part of the whole philosophy of Riffle, and whatever, you can call it FOMO, you can call it what you want. There's been much has been said about the way that we've handled Riffle, both good and bad. But part of it is that we want this sort of reoccurring interest in what's happening in our web store, and we can't afford to always offer free shipping on absolutely everything. We do have to collect some shipping dollars here and there. And so that is full stop. That's part of the philosophy with Riffle. And I'm not going to give you actual sales numbers from today, but let me just say it's very effective and it's important, and it helps allow us to offer some of the more aggressive shipping promotions that we do offer in other places. I mean, again, Elder Scrolls, I don't know what the final box size on the Elder Scrolls is going to be. It's a $220 MSRP game that I think we sold on the campaign for like $200, but with free shipping. Isafari Guard on GameFound right now is a huge box with tons of chips, probably as many chips as Elder Scrolls has, and they are charging $50 for shipping, and they're not crazy. So that's not a criticism of how they're handling it. I'm just telling you, Elder Scrolls is roughly kind of the same general thing, and we gave free shipping on it. That's a marketing effort on our end. We can't do that everywhere, and so Riffle being for sale on our website, that's kind of part of, there's give and take with all of that, and we have to do that to survive. So anyway.
Also expect to see potentially some other decks showing up, not campaign-based. Like that was another aspect to 20 Strong that we wanted to start working on, was can we, have a deck release every quarter potentially, or something that isn't always going to take the all to do of a campaign to release and launch, and then put it up on our website for immediate order or whatever.
Right. So, to the point, and we talked about actually doing that with Tanglewoods, because we have Manny on board, and because I feel like we're talking about this like we're starstruck by Manny, and he's our friend, so I'm not starstruck by him at all. But we do want to leverage having a known artist and a known designer like on this project, and so. Rather than just release it straight to the web store, we want to do a campaign to help us leverage that. And also that's going to help with languages and all that kind of thing. Like it acts as its own marketing effort. But this will likely be the final 20 Strong crowdfunding campaign we ever do at this point, because again, our goal is to just keep releasing smaller decks via the website moving forward in the future. So,
Cool.
Any chance for co-op 20 Strong in the future? We'd have to call it 40 Strong.
We would.
That would only be two-player, 60, 80 strong. I would say, when we launched the 20 Strong campaign again last year, we talked about a whole bunch of things being possibilities for it, because one, we weren't sure how it would be received. Two, again, the sky's the limit. And three, we never say never to anything. So I wouldn't say never, though I have a feeling we would likely launch a parallel line of games with it that would be, again, we wouldn't call it 20 Strong, we'd call it 2 Strong if it was 2-player co-op. That's a terrible name, we're not going to call it that. You get the idea though. It would be something that was very clearly designated as co-op, because again, I think this is going to gain ground as a solo experience, and I think trying to then shoehorn some co-op mechanics into it later is a challenge, which is kind of what we were talking about with Hoplo earlier as well. But we may, again,
Yeah, I mean,
who knows?
Yeah, both Cloudspire and Burn Cycle have come up on the docket as a consideration for a co-op possibility. They're on a list, and we'll keep vetting that. But yeah, it's not a forefront design goal right now.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
It's meant to be a solo experience. It's always probably going to be best as a solo experience, and so we just want to be hyper clear about that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
This one's new.
Okay, you already mentioned it previously that. Okay, you already mentioned previously that 20 Strong would be a retail game, and it will be. That would include. Does that include your web store as well for future decks to be bought from? Yes, that's not to say every single deck will go to retail necessarily. In fact, there's one I feel confident will not go to retail. That is kind of that, and people who have been following us for a while probably already kind of know what that probably is. Keep your eyes peeled in April, but. But yes, anything that goes to retail will also come to us through our website. We will always sell anything we make through our website. I can't picture us ever doing a retail exclusive of any kind. That's just not really on our radar. So yeah, good question. Any plans for other decks themed on CTG's other IPs?
Yes, not during Tanglewood.
Yeah.
Not during Tanglewood's campaign.
But yes.
But yes.
Yep. And then there are two very small questions at the very.
No.
Are those? No. Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay. Folks, I think that's it for us for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you're excited about all the things that we have announced. There's so much coming. It blows my mind thinking back 5 years ago when it was like we have too many bones, and now looking at all the stuff we're making, it's wild. Just want to remind you that the Hoplomachus Pandora's Box campaign launches Tuesday, September 12th. That's next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday at 10 o'clock Central Daylight Time. There are 10 strategist pledges that will be available, and we're so excited about that campaigin.
Is there a pledge reward thing that we talked about?
Yes, we did talk about the
It'll be up on the page soon.
Yes, we're going to get it up on the page soon by the end of the day today. But the Forge micro expansion, a free $5 little micro expansion featuring Logan's dad, the blacksmith, will be available with every pledge. And again, there will be several bundle discounts as well for the new content, and as well as free shipping on all pledges. So it's going to be there's plenty of reasons to back during the campaign on this one, especially. You can follow the Wroth preview campaign page on GameFound right now. You can follow the 20 Strong Tanglewoods campaign. Those will likely be receiving free follow gifts in the future. We just haven't had the opportunity to get there quite yet with all the other stuff that's brewing. In the meantime, again, we mentioned at the beginning of the stream, tons of stuff coming on Black Friday, including Too Many Bones, Gearlock, Brass Mags. And you can also still late pledge for things, small, little, tiny games like the Elder Scrolls on GameFound right now. That's it for us. I'm Josh Welgus. You know me as Gilly. Who are you?
I'm Josh Carlson.
Thank you for watching this Chip Theory GameFound Feast, and we will see you very, very soon.